Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto hates devils and becomes angels in Highschool DxD part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Hidden location, America, local time. 9:35 p.m. In a lightly lit room, a single person that was wearing a white coat sat in front of various monitors observing them while drinking from a steaming cup of coffee. He was a close to middle-aged but still a young man with pale skin, short black hair and stubbles on his face. The many monitors showed a myriad of different things. Some showed the vitals of a single person, which indicated that the person in question was quite healthy if asleep. Others showed a single spacious room with a large tank in the center, a control panel at the side. Inside this tank was a naked teenager with golden blonde hair that was kept down from being wet, his eyes closed, a mask hooked to his face so that his lungs did not fill with the blue-greenish liquid that filled the tank. Suddenly the door to the room opened with a whir of the air as a second white-coated person entered the observation room. "Is he still asleep, Victor?" the person that had entered the room asked, referring to the boy in the tank. "I'm afraid so, Marcus." Victor answered with sigh of disappointment. "But is he ready soon? The UN is getting impatient. They want to see the results of our research." I know. Victor responded and with a few clicks called a 3D model of a complex chemical compound on one of the monitors up. The tank is currently filled with formula Z51810 codenamed Omega. Once his body has finished adapting to this compound, he should be ready for a field test. "So what's this supposed to do?" "You know I am not that good with your biochemistry stuff," Marcus reminded his co-worker. "Oh yeah, I keep forgetting you are the engineer and I am dealing with this alone." Victor remembered well, this compound in conjunction with the others we made his body come in contact with, he will rise beyond the limits of a normal human body. He will be capable of lifting many times the weight of the perfect weightlifter. Faster than the fastest runner. More durable, agile and with better reflexes than any human will ever have. He will be the prototype that will usher a new age of humanity. Ahaha, well said. Marcus chimed in with a smile on his lips. The newest anti-devil weaponry is already finished. Now we need to find out what those angels are vulnerable to optimize the weapons even further. And then should the need ever arise, humanity will be able to defend itself. Victor nodded in agreement and spoke the slogan of their organization: for humanity. For humanity. Marcus intoned, and as they said that, the monitors indicated that the test subject was waking up. The two workers rushed from their seats and into the room that held the tank. The blonde stirred inside his tank, opening his sapphire blue eyes, taking in his familiar environment, having already been inside this contraption many times previously. Victor entered the combination to drain the tank of the liquid and followed it by having the glass slide away. The blonde dropped to his knees, weakened, as the scientists gave him a towel to dry himself. "How are you feeling, Naruto?" Marcus asked the test subject. "As well as can be expected." The blonde, Naruto, responded with a slight rasp to his voice. "No matter how often I am inside that thing, I'll never get used to it." "Don't worry then. This was the last time," Victor assured the young teenager, and the three went into an examination room, having the blonde drink something against his raspy throat. Suddenly the large screen inside of the room lit up, a shadowed form in the center of it. "Is the test subject ready?" the form asked, its voice scrambled as to be unrecognizable. "Yes, he just underwent the final treatment. Tomorrow you can make certain of our success in the matter." "Very good. We will be visiting the facility at 1500 tomorrow. Have him be ready until then." Victor and Marcus were the heads of their respective departments in this operation and the only one who usually worked this late. In fact, they even preferred to do so in, mostly, solitude. Their organization used the slogan "for humanity" because they strive to protect humanity from devils, angels and any other beast of myth. Almost 20 years ago, the two friends, at that time avid party-goers, went to a party of a mutual friend of theirs. However, a grotesque creature had appeared towards the end of the night. It was a large hunchbacked monster, muscles larger than any humanoid. In fact, its arms were so muscled and big that they were dragging on the ground, and its steps shook the ground of the building. Despite the thing's appearance, however, it didn't behave like a wild beast. It was capable of speech, forming coherent thoughts and sentences. This beast indiscriminately slaughtered everyone present. Some people that had knives and guns tried to fight it off, but it was futile. The knives some people tried to stab it with or threw at it were completely ineffective, creating little more than scratches that sealed up relatively fast. Only the two had survived because they shook of their panic and made a run for it, instead of being frozen in fear or trying to fight it. That was an experience that shook the two men of rationality to the core. Such a beast should be unfathomable. There was nothing documented on Earth that was anything like it. Even deeming it to be something natural was preposterous, so the only conclusion they came to was that it had to be something supernatural, as much as their own intellect struggled to accept that conclusion. From then they had spent many years trying to prove the existence of these supernatural beings to receive the funds from the UN so that there may be a way for humanity to defend itself. As was to be expected when they first put forth the notion of such beings existing, they were laughed at by the scientific community. So they first dug deeper into the matter, surrounding themselves in books on the occult, even going so far as to dig for the rarer texts and trying to get any information out of the church, who were unusually tight-lipped on the matter. In the end they had managed to capture the fight between a winged creature and one with bat wings through Marcus' ingenuity as he built a whole slew of tiny, almost unnoticeable remote spy cameras. After managing to prove that the footage had not been tampered with and that there were no CGI effects and whatnot, the UN had declared this to be a secret of the highest security level and made the funds available for them to spearhead a project into the research that would be able to defend humanity from these beings. That had been 16 years ago. A year later they had someone infiltrate the Catholic Church as to steal the sensitive information they tried to hide. The informant told them that the church had known about angels and devils for a long time already and had even been given the knowledge on creating appropriate weaponry to combat the devils by the angels. They had managed to steal the blueprints on how to create light guns and swords. After Marcus had created the first batch of the weaponry, they had a team of trained soldiers equipped with these weapons hunt one of these beasts down. While the weapons were indeed effective, the soldiers proved to be less so. While the devil did die in the end, it had cost the lives of more than a dozen men to even kill one of them, and from the information they stole from the church that these so-called stray devils, which were devils that had killed or otherwise forsaken their master, were more often than not on the bottom end of the ladder in terms of power. Of course there had been the possibility of recruiting humans in possession of a sacred gear, but these people were not only rare, but the chance of it being a combat-orientated one was slim as well. The sacred gears had been created by the biblical God and granted at random to humans to be miracle workers. So after this first failure they decided to create a super soldier that could keep up with the enhanced physical abilities of the supernatural creatures. They tested many orphans on their abilities in various fields and their personality, and in the end a small 5-year-old blonde boy from Japan, with the name Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, had been declared the perfect test subject, and he consented to be part of the program after having lost both his parents to these creatures. Shaken from his thoughts, Victor spoke to the blonde, "Get some rest, you'll be showcasing your abilities tomorrow to the higher-ups." Naruto nodded and went to his room, laying down on his bed. For some reason he thought back to that fateful day on his 5th birthday 12 years ago. Flashback, October 10th, 12 years ago, Kyoto, Japan. The young Naruto had, in celebration of his birthday, been taken out for his favorite food, ramen. They had visited the small stand of the family Ichiraku, with whom Naruto and his parents, Kushina and Minato, were good friends with. Naruto liked talking to the young daughter of Tuchi, Am. She was twice as old as he was, but she was always very nice to him. That was why he called her Am-nichan. As a present they had even made him a special ramen with all his favorite ingredients. In Naruto's opinion this day couldn't get any better. Soon the three arrived at their house only to see the door broken down. "Do you think there might be burglars?" Kushina asked her husband with concern in her voice. "I don't know, only one way to find out, I guess." Minato muttered back, focused on the devastated entrance. "Keep Naruto close to you." A small blonde clung frightened to his mother, whose embrace calmed him slightly. As they walked further into the house they noticed that everything else was completely tidy, nothing to suggest a breaking and entering of any kind. However, there was soft sobbing coming from further back in the house. Thinking someone was hurt, Minato quickened his pace, intent on helping that person. Once they entered the living room, in the center of it knelt a small girl, blood pouring from a wound on her stomach. "What happened?" Minato asked, full of concern as he rushed to the downed girl, who he noted was just a bit bigger than Naruto was. "Quick, Kushina, call an ambulance," he urged his wife as he tried to administer first aid. His eyes suddenly widened in shock as his body was split in half. The long slimy tongue had cut through the older blonde's body like a knife through butter. The young girl now giggled devilishly, making disgusting slurping noises as she licked the blood from the separated halves. "Ah, delicious human blood," she stated in a voice that was far too deep for such a young girl, or any girl for that matter. "This will nourish me well to recover from the wounds that damn angel inflicted upon me." She then eyed the red-haired mother and young Naruto, grinning in anticipation. More delicacies. The young blonde shook in his mother's arms as finally the shock left him. "No, Daddy." He screamed in despair, tears streaming down his face as he stared in shock at his father's lifeless halves lying, blood spilling, on the floor. "I need to get Naruto to safety." Kushina thought, alarmed, and ran out of the living room. The long tongue suddenly shot towards her. "Oh no, you aren't getting away," the creature exclaimed, and from her peripheral vision, she could see that the offending body part would catch her if she continued straight ahead. Her only bet was heading upstairs and hiding Naruto in one of the closets and then sacrificing herself to lure that thing away. The young mother made a quick turn and ran the stairs up, the tongue unable to follow her there. "A stray devil," scoffed TCH, "now I actually have to move." The devil grunted in exertion as it stood up. The wounds were only slowly healing, having been inflicted by light. Upstairs and Kashina pushed her son into one of the closets. Stay in there and only come out when you can't hear either me or that monster, okay? She asked the shaking boy, who could only nod in response. Kashina closed the closet behind her and walked away from it as the devil came closer and closer, the slurping of the tongue only growing louder. Soon I will have caught you and your spawn, and then I will feast on your flesh and bones. The monstrous girl declared, only over my dead body. The red-headed woman declared and tensed her body to surprise the thing as it came around the corner, to rush past it and downstairs and away from the house. Just as the devil was about to stand at the entrance to the room, a second masculine voice chimed in, I finally found you, vile fiend. The voice, sounding positively annoyed, thought you could escape from me by hiding inside this human house. Well, I'll show you how wrong you were. Suddenly the only thing Kashina could hear was the pained screams of the monster, in addition to the sound of something, like a weapon penetrating flesh. Suddenly the corpse keeled over in front of the door, bleeding on the floor. Is it over? Kashina wanted to know, feeling exhausted both mentally and physically. In that moment the owner of the second voice entered the room. It was a young man, around Minato's age. He was wearing a black coat that was splattered with some of the monster's blood. He had some stubbles on his face and short black hair that was parted in the middle. However, what truly stood out about him was the black pair of wings on his back. The man scanned the room and his gaze fell upon Kashina. What a beautiful woman you are, he commented, and the red-haired woman felt dirty being complimented by this man. How about I claim a little reward for rescuing you? He asked with a lust-filled grin. I'm sure your dead husband won't mind. The fallen angel grabbed her arm, and the young mother, not wanting to be raped, lashed out at the angel, striking his face. Kashina had felt like she struck something very solid, and the man frowned at her, nursing his cheek despite having left no mark. The fallen angel now growled in anger. You ungrateful human wench, have the audacity to hit me, a being that is superior to you in every way. He spat out in rage and a white lance of something formed in his hand. Learn your place, you worthless piece of garbage. He stabbed once, twice, thrice until the corpse of the once beautiful woman looked like Swiss cheese. With his anger sated, the fallen angel disappeared once again, leaving the blonde all alone, having just witnessed the brutal murder of both his parents. Naruto sobbed and cried until his voice was hoarse, his eyes empty of tears and bloodshot red. In the following investigation, his parents' death had been chalked up to some sort of demented psychopath. When Naruto had tried to tell the authorities what had really happened, he had been declared traumatized by the events and been given pills to deal with that. Nobody had believed him until Marcus and Victor had come along, or rather a representative of his organization that invited in orphans whose parents had died under mysterious circumstances for the testing of his super soldier program. Flashback end. The day he had been told that he was chosen for this program, that day he remembered just as vividly as the day his parents had died. Flashback. America, organization headquarters. Naruto had just been told to enter the next examination room. He sat down in front of the two men, both of whom had a few sheets of paper in front of them, on which Naruto could read his name. So, Naruto-kun. That's how you would be called back in Japan, right? Victor said in a Russian accented Japanese, unused to the different honorifics the Japanese like to use. The small boy nodded his head. Alright then, Naruto-kun. Do you know why we invited you and all those other kids? The blonde shook his head. No, he didn't. It has something to do with what you witnessed. You see, in this world, contrary to popular belief, there exists the world of the supernatural. Angels, devils, dragons and any creature of myth you can imagine. And your parents, just like the ones of all the other kids, have been killed by one or more creatures of that world. Naruto could not believe it. This had to be a prank. Nobody had believed him before when he had said his mother had been killed by an angel or his father by some monster with a long tongue. Why, you really believe me? He choked out in astonishment. Yes, we do. Marcus answered the boy. Do you know why we do? In some paranoid part of the blonde, he thought they might reveal themselves to belong to that group as well and kill him now, but he discarded that irrational fear and just shook his head. Because we were victims of such an attack as well, and we lost quite a few friends to that. And we don't like that we humans are so powerless when we come face to face with such beings. Marcus explained to the young boy. So we founded this organization to elevate humanity to a new level where, should we come face to face with devils, angels or any other such creature, should we be drawn into a fight or even war with them, we aren't helpless and have to fear that all of humanity could be eradicated at a whim. Marcus continued with the explanation. So if you were to help us, you'd be the first human that could evenly confront these beings on a physical level. What would you do with that power? Naruto scrunched his face up in thought before looking at the two men. I guess I'd help other people. My daddy told me that helping others is better than just helping yourself. Once the two men had heard that explanation, they looked at each other and nodded. That's a good reason, Naruto-kun. Victor answered. You see, we aren't looking for someone who just mindlessly seek revenge and kill all devils and angels. We humans are already too conflicted on our own. We just want to protect ourselves as best as we can, to be equal, and as little as we know about these, there may actually be decent devils and angels, just as there are humans who are good there are those who are bad, and amongst these beings, that might not be any different. If in the end we could peacefully coexist with these beings, then that would be even better than eradicating them all. That is why you have just passed this final selection exam. Marcus stated, smiling softly at the blonde. Flashback end. From that day on he had been taught how to read, write and much more. Essentially he had been given a high-quality education both on a knowledge basis as well as on a physical one, so that he knew how to fight, hand-to-hand combat, weapon handling both firearms, as well as most close combat weapons, like staffs, swords, knives. And every few weeks, sometimes even a month in between, he had to spend between a few days and a week inside that tank, as it was filled with various body-enhancing compounds. Those days, weeks and years of his training breezed by very fast. Naruto ended his trip down the memory lane and stared at the clock in his room, which read 2:16 p.m. "I guess I've been thinking pretty hard then." The blonde mused in slight amusement and closed his eyes, falling asleep. One day later, local time. 3 p.m. Naruto was dressed in a black pants and shoes. His upper body was clad in a white t-shirt with a crimson zip-up jacket which was left unzipped. To his side stood both Marcus and Victor in their lab coats, and opposite of them stood the representatives of various nations of the UN. Amongst them Japan, the United States of America, Germany and Russia, just to name a few. "So this is him?" the Russian representative asked. "The result of all our money and efforts?" Victor nodded yes. He answered curtly, "Now if you would follow us to the test range." The man in the white coat led the way and everyone followed him. Soon they were in front of a large block of some sort of bluish-white metal. "This is a block of lead. Total weight estimated around 15 tons. The Russian biochemist elaborated, "The most weight raised by a human being was a little over 2.8 tons back in the 1950s. Naruto will now demonstrate the ability to lift 5 times that amount." The scientist gestured to the blonde, who gripped the block of lead and lifted it almost effortlessly, raising it above his head and holding it there for quite some time before setting it down again, causing murmurs amongst the representatives. Next he will showcase the amount of force unleashed with a punch, using that same block as reference. Victor stated and motioned for the blonde to punch the block. Naruto breathed in and threw a punch towards the block, with small sound that confirmed the hit. The blonde had caused an indentation in the lead. After these feats of strength, the two founders led everyone to a small track field with a 400-meter race track. Next Naruto will demonstrate his speed and endurance to us. For reference, the world record for the fastest speed a human has run was set by the Jamaican Usain Bolt. He ran close to 45 kilometers per hour. Naruto received the signal and started sprinting around the field. He completed his first lap in a little more than 5 seconds. After 10 rounds he was given the signal to stop. The blonde showed no signs of fatigue from the sprinting and could likely go at that pace for hours on end without visibly tiring. Following that, the blonde's superhuman's endurance was tested. He was hit with thick wooden bats that broke on impact without the teenager even flinching. His reflexes proved to be exceptional, as well as he dodged multiple shots fired at him from close range. The representatives conversed with one another after the display of the blonde's abilities. The American one cleared his throat, getting their attention. "That was indeed an impressive performance. You have shown us that our fund were very well invested in your research." The representative began, and they could sense a but coming, "But we need to see how young Naruto deals in a live combat situation against one of these things. That is why, as a true test to your abilities, we have decided on a task for you to deal with." The German representative informed them, "In Germany, there have been reports of multiple people disappearing mysteriously all around the same area. We believe that a being of supernatural origin is involved. We want you to find and confront the beast and kill it before it kills more of innocent people. You will be traveling in 1 hour." "Yes, sir." Naruto responded, accepting his first test in dealing with a living preternatural being. Half an hour later, Naruto was currently equipping himself, although it wasn't much. While he first thought about taking a Kevlar vest, he doubted it would grant him any serious protection against claws and fangs, so all he did take in the end were weapons. One was a small hilt for a combat knife with a light edge and a gun that shot light bullets. All Marcus gave him though was a model based on a 9mm gun. The blonde weighed the weapon in his hand, and it felt pretty light to him, at least compared to the usual 9mm guns he had handled during his training. "Wouldn't a higher caliber gun be more effective?" the blonde inquired of the engineer. Marcus simply shook his head. "I thought so too. The first guns I had created were based on M16 models, but since the power of these bullets isn't dependent on the model of the gun or the length of the bullet, I went for something much handier," he explained. "How do these light weapons work anyway?" the blonde wanted to know. "You never explained that." "Well, the ones the church uses have a magic array sitting on the inside of the weapon that takes, gather, mold and hold the photons in the shape of the weapon they are supposed to take. That array is activated by a short infusion of the user's magic. In the case of the gun, that small amount of magic is used for each shot, whereas for a close combat weapon, the array takes the ambient energy to keep it fueled. Of course, and so few people have the ability to use magic, that method is unviable for our use. In our case, I have, after someone down in the department wrote a decryption program, changed the array in such a way that it switched the power source from magic to electricity. That's why those two weapons run on an internal battery. However, I still haven't worked out one kink. The array burns out after one full usage of the weapon. So there is no reloading. That means for you that you should use them sparingly, as the amount of energy used is pretty significant. The gun should have about one standard magazine size of shots before stopping to work. So 15 shots. He looked at the gun as he contemplated that fact. What about the knife? Well, that's a bit more problematic. The continuous drain empties the battery pretty fast. So you can use it 1 minute at most before it stops. Alright, 15 shots in 1 minute. Naruto committed that information to his memory. I think I'm done in that case. Hamburg, Germany, local time 1:12 a.m. After traveling all the way to Germany, he checked his weapons one last time as he was dropped off close to where the victims had disappeared. "Can you hear me, Naruto?" He heard over the headset. He wore loud and clear, "Gonzalo." The blonde responded. Gonzalo was a ballistic weapons expert from Spain. He had taught him how to handle all kinds of different firearms, and Gonzalo would be keeping track of Naruto for the duration of the mission. "I'm going to start sweeping the area now." The area around him was largely abandoned. Some abandoned factory halls littered the area, while a few stray cats scurried in the shadows of various buildings. Far away, he could hear isolated cars driving through the city, the scent of fumes and dirt filling his nostrils. Eventually, he saw a group of 4 boys in the distance standing in front of one of the halls, talking to each other. While Naruto's German was very basic, he could get the gist of what they were talking about. Apparently, they had heard how this hall was supposed to be haunted, and to prove how manly and tough they were, they wanted to explore it and then tell everyone about it the next day. "Why did you stop, Naruto?" the Spaniard asked him. "4 civilians are standing in front of what is likely the target location." "Well, just make them go away," Gonzalo said, as if it was the simplest thing in the world. "Roger," Naruto responded when he realized that they just went inside the building. "Shit." The blonde cursed. "What happened?" "They went inside the building." Naruto rushed to the entrance when he already heard vivid screaming of the boys as they all, -1, came scrambling out of the building. They stopped in front of the entrance for a short breather. "Shit, what kind of thing was that?" one of them asked. "I dunno what it got, Michael," the second one responded when the third noticed him. "Hey, what are you doing here?" He shook his head as if noting how silly his question was. "No, I don't need to know anyway, we should all get away here." Naruto could already hear the steps of something unnatural approaching and pulled out his light gun, and the second guy gasped in shock. "Holy fuck, that guy has a gun," he stated and backed away. "Let's get out of here," he urged his 2 remaining friends, and they ran away in fright, one of them running into Naruto. Not that the blonde really noticed, which was a mistake, because he might have seen that his headset got knocked loose and lay on the ground. Naruto heard something dripping on the ground as the steps got closer, likely blood, he thought to himself. He aimed towards the darkness, his enhanced sight picking up the outline of the otherworldly being. He took aim with his light gun, and a white bullet streaked out of the weapon towards the devil. There was no bang, no recoil, just the bullet flying. However, the outline moved fast and jumped out of the way. "Haha, silly little exorcist, did you forget that we have night vision?" the devil asked mockingly. "I saw you long before you even took aim." Naruto heard something sharp being readied as the shadowed form of the devil charged towards him. "Now would you please die so I can feast on your delicious blood?" the crazed devil screamed, and Naruto rolled out of the way, placing 2 shots into the devil's outstretched arm. Although Naruto noted scythe might be a better description. Now that the devil was in the moonlight, Naruto could assess his features completely. The devil had a mostly human face with faded brown hair on his head, a sharp angular jaw and nose. However, what was different about him were his arms. They were long, green and ended in sharp round cutting edges, as if a human's arms had been replaced by a pair of scythes, or maybe like a praying mantis. "Fuck, that hurt you, asshole," the praying mantis devil cursed in pain. "You are certainly quick on your feet. Most humans would have been cleaved in half by that. But I won't give you the satisfaction of dropping that easily. I am not a simple low-class devil." The air was filled with the slicing of wind as blades of wind shot towards the blonde, who retaliated with 3 more shots from his weapon at the still-standing devil. However, the shots were deflected by the wind, which should have been impossible. Naruto barely managed to dodge the blades of wind, which were cut through his clothes and grazed his flesh, letting little droplets of blood run down his body. "You certainly are resilient," the devil commented and shot more slices of wind at the blonde. Naruto dodged to the side and behind a pillar, firing 2 more shots at the legs of the devil, of which only one hit, causing the devil to bleed slightly on the floor. The devil growled in rage. "You can't hide, stupid human," he commented and started destroying the pillar Naruto stood behind. Knowing that he would be hurt should he not dodge the attack, he jumped behind the next pillar and fired 4 more quick shots at his adversary, who was prepared and slashed his wind at the bullets. 3 bullets left. The young fighter realized have to make those count because going into close combat with that thing, even with my reflexes, will have me getting cut to pieces. Naruto grabbed his knife and ignited the light edge of the weapon and sloppily threw the weapon at the devil, who simply dodged. His gaze had lingered long enough on the weapon for Naruto to drop deeper into the building to set something up. The mantis devil scoffed at the human's action and followed him deeper into the building. "You are just delaying the inevitable. I will kill you this evening no matter what you do." The devil proclaimed rather arrogantly, come out wherever you are." He dragged his bladed arms on the ground, carving into the concrete floor. Naruto knew that the devil could see just as well in the dark as during the day, so he had to wait for an opportunity where that guy had his back turned to him. He saw the mantis stalking to a nearby pillar, eyeing it up and down. "Maybe you are here." He sliced through the pillar like a hot knife through butter. The devil clicked his tongue in annoyance and stalked to the next pillar. "What about here?" He sliced through that as well. The devil got closer and closer, and if he continued at the pace he was going, he would soon arrive at the pillar Naruto hid behind. As he arrived at the second to last pillar he stopped, however. "I'm getting tired of this." He turned his back and Naruto took aim at the head, pulling the trigger 3 times, and he saw the bullets fly at his target when a sharp wind picked up. The devil spun around like a spinning top, creating sharp cutting winds that flew through the large hall, easily tearing the building up. Naruto's last bullets met a wall of wind that had surrounded the devil as he spun, blocking the shots completely. The young boy's cover was soon destroyed. He was left completely defenseless. However, Naruto wouldn't resign to his fate. As the devil stopped his dance he grinned, a grin filled with bloodthirst, at the blonde. "Finally I got you." The devil moved closer and was surprised as the blonde now charged at him, something he didn't expect, and pummeled him repeatedly in his human face. As Naruto's opponent pulled back for a slice towards his midriff, the blonde jumped back but still got caught, leaving a long bleeding gash over his stomach, which throbbed with hot red pain. Naruto nursed his wound as he kneeled on the ground in pain. "I don't want to die." He thought was the devil got closer, satisfied to finally get his kill. "I don't want to die. I don't want to die." That thought repeated in his head like a mantra. The devil smiled one last evil smile. "Say your prayers, boy." He poised his 2 scythe-like arms ready to strike down at the blonde. Suddenly something in Naruto broke, like a dam of water bursting free, filling his body with raw unbridled power of something. He didn't know what it was, but maybe it was his only chance at surviving. He stretched his hand out and willed the devil away. He wanted him out of his reach, and the power literally exploded from Naruto, crashing into the attacking devil and throwing him into a wall at the back. As the devil grunted in pain at the unexpected attack, if it could be called that. "What did you just pull, filthy human?" The devil demanded to know, and Naruto could only stare dumbfounded at his hand. He didn't know what just happened, but it saved him and he would use it to finish the jump. "I, devil scum!" Naruto exclaimed and pulled his hand into a fist like he were to crush something. Suddenly the shadows around the devil converged on him. "And no, what is this?" The mantis devil asked in fright as he was enveloped by the shadows as a black cocoon formed around him. Seconds later Naruto heard sickening crack and crunching noises. The shadows disappeared and left was the crushed body of the devil, which looked like it might have gotten under a stampede. What was this power? Naruto wanted to know, and suddenly he felt exhausted, not physically but mentally, like he wanted to sleep for a day straight, and he could feel a slight headache forming. He fought the fatigue away and picked the body of the devil up, as it could prove to be useful. In that moment Naruto noticed that his headset had fallen off and cursed. Luckily he found it at the entrance. "Hello?" he called tentatively out. "God, Naruto, are you alright?" Gonzalo asked, concerned for his young student. "Yeah, a bit cut up, but the devil is dead. When you stopped responding we thought the worst and we couldn't send anyone after you cause yak know anything that could deal with you would likely kill anyone just as easily." "Yes, I understand," the blonde responded. He didn't want to have the death of innocent men and women on his conscience in a useless effort to finish what he couldn't. "Anyway, can you send someone to pick me up?" "Sure thing. Anything else?" "Yeah, tell Victor that I have loot and that I need to talk to him." "Gonzalo Chicletti will do. See you soon, Naruto." But that said, Gonzalo went quiet as he relayed the messages. New York, organization headquarters, local time 10:49 p.m. Naruto entered the laboratory where Victor was waiting, carrying the devil's corpse on his back. "Good work back there, Naruto." Victor congratulated him for a job well done. The higher-ups were really impressed with the results. The Russian biochemist then noticed what the blonde was carrying. "Is that?" "Yeah, that is the devil's corpse." "That is incredible." Victor noticed, amazed. An autopsy of the corpse, even in the state it is in, will likely yield great results in understanding them better. Gonzalo mentioned that you wanted to speak with me. Was it just about the corpse? Naruto shook his head and retold what he had felt towards the end of the fight. "I felt this strange overwhelming power well up from inside of me. When I stretched out my hand to push the devil he was literally flung into a wall, and when I killed him the shadows converged on him and crushed him into a bloody pulp. Do you know what happened back there? The blonde asked. Victor seemed in deep thought. Well, I have a theory, but I would like to take a sample of your blood first and then do some tests, if that is alright. Yeah, I don't mind, go ahead. The blonde gave his affirmative and had the man take some of his blood. This will likely take a day or so get some rest and recover. Finally Naruto let out a big yawn. I think I could fall asleep on the spot. The scientist chuckled mirthfully as Naruto left the laboratory. One day later, Naruto was once again in the Victor's laboratory. So what did the test results tell you, Vic? He asked the scientist, dropping all the formality he had to keep up in these last few days. Well, as expected, your DNA, while largely similar to a human, has been quite literally supercharged. But what really stood out was one strand of DNA that was heavily mutated. And I think this is what is responsible for your powers. Victor explained and placed his pen on the table beside him. To confirm my theory as to the nature of your powers, I want you to pick up this pen. The blonde chuckled at the easy task and moved towards the table when the Russian scientist stopped him. No. I want you to pick it up, but from where you are standing. How am I supposed to do that? The blonde asked, irritated. Didn't you tell me that you willed the devil away from you? So just concentrate and will the pen to come to you. The blonde frowned but did as asked. He concentrated on the pen and had his arm raised, palm outstretched, and wanted the pen to come to him. Come. Naruto practically shouted in his mind, and the pen began to quiver and lifted from the table towards Naruto, whose eyes widened in surprise and then grinned when he felt the cold pen grasped in his hand. Magnificent. Victor exclaimed excitedly, this opens a whole avenue of new possibilities. So what is this? Telekinesis, Naruto. What, so I am an Esper now? The blonde asked, intrigued. Like lifting objects with my mind and stuff. Well, yes, theoretically even more than that. What more? I thought that was all there is to that. Tell me, what does telekinesis have to do with controlling shadows as you did? The blonde seemed stumped. Yes, what does that have to do with each other? He thought to himself and shook his head. You see, telekinesis is just one part of such mental powers. The term to describe your powers would probably be psychokinesis. The power to move things with your mind. However, these two terms do not mean the same thing. Because psychokinesis encompasses all, for example umbrakinesis or moving shadows with your mind, just as you did to finish the devil off. In fact, I believe that there is no limit to what you can manipulate with your mind. Victor explained to the blonde. Close your eyes and hold up your right palm now. Naruto did as instructed. Now visualize that power flowing towards your right palm and out of it. Think of it as the flame of a small candle, feel the heat growing. Soon a small flickering flame hovered above the blonde's hand. Haha. I was right. Even pyrokinesis is possible. The blonde grinned. That's awesome, I'm awesome. He allowed himself a small bit of self-praise even if it sounded arrogant. I'll be dissecting the devil now and see what I can gather from his body. You go and keep practicing your new skills. 2 weeks later, Naruto now sat in a kind of briefing room staring at Marcus, who stood in front of a large screen which displayed a world map with many large small dots glowing on it and even some larger ones. Alright, let me explain what you see on this map. Marcus said and cleared his throat. After Victor finished with his autopsy, he did some other tests on the body, one of which was an energy reading. The corpse still gave off a small residue of energy despite having long been dead. What kind of energy it exactly is we don't know, but we tasked the guys to write an algorithm that would be able to scan for this exact type of energy. Using the satellite network around the globe we did so. All the dots you can see are devil activity. Most are rather small and similar to each other, some are a bit bigger, and we likely would have you deal with all of them one by one if it weren't for one specific thing. He gestured to Japan where he could see a huge dot. Compared to the other ones, this dwarfed them all likely, even if they were heaped together. This had to be a hot spot of some kind. After we presented the higher-ups with this, they declared it to be of the highest priority for you to deal with it. Your task will be to infiltrate the location and determine if the devils are hostile in any way, and if yes, you are to eliminate them. So where am I going? The blonde asked. Well, you are going to be pretty lucky. Marcus chuckled quite amusedly, or maybe not, because we pinpointed the signal to, and that is as close as we could get, Kuo Gakuen. Congratulations, you are going to be attending high school. Wait, Naruto's shocked cry could be heard throughout the building as Marcus laughed out loud. Naruto's apartment, Japan, local time. 7 a.m. All Naruto could hear was the infernal blaring of the alarm clock that would wake him every day from now on. He absent-mindedly hit the snooze button but forgot about his strength, flattening the clock into a pile of electric junk. Fuck. The blonde muttered, slowly opened his eyes and rubbed the sleep out of his eyes as he let out a deep sigh. Well, I have to replace the alarm clock again. He commented to himself and pulled himself out of bed, dreading the first day of the thing that was called high school. Most of what they taught there he had already been taught during his 12 years in the laboratories of Logos. That was why he dreaded the boring curriculum he had to face. Well, his true task was to find out the identity of the devils who seemed to be hiding amongst the student body, determine if they were a threat, and then take appropriate measure against them based on the intelligence he would have gathered at that point. That in theory sounded like a great way to pass time, at least if you had a penchant for action like Naruto did, however not in combination of having school occupy such a great deal of his time. The blonde removed his sleepwear and threw it on the heap of dirty clothes that was forming beside his bed. He entered his apartment's bath and walked into his shower, letting it first a icy cold stream of water wash away even the last bit of drowsiness before switching to a more comfortable temperature. Naruto soon dropped out of the shower and started drying himself off while brushing his teeth. Gakuin. He thought that is the name of the school I will have to attend. The school had been an all-girls school up until last year when the administration decided to switch to co-ed. Naturally, this caused quite a few boys to attend for the sake of having a high girl-to-boy ratio, leaving a good number of desirable girls open without having to argue and compete too much with the other boys. Naruto could still hear Marcus' encouraging words echo in his head, the way he said it with hidden amusement still annoyed the blonde. Flashback, I have to go where exactly? Naruto decided to ask, completely dumbfounded by the turn of events. I seem to have misheard. I could have sworn you said I would have to attend high school. Oh, you heard right, Naruto. Marcus said, trying to hold back his laughter at the obviously amusing situation. You must be kidding me, Naruto almost shouted in exasperation and felt the need to punch something repeatedly until it broke. Surely there must be some other way for me to put up a surveillance anything. The scientist could not contain his amusement anymore and chuckled loudly. I'm afraid not. That is the easiest and most inconspicuous way of blending in and having easy access to the student body. Come on, can't I be like an assistant teacher or something like that? The blonde suggested, and in an alternate reality the blonde-haired assistant to a young brown-haired Welsh mage sneezed. Anything, as long as I don't have to deal with that boring curriculum. As if that would even work. Honestly, a 17-year-old high school teacher. So sorry, there is nothing I can do there. Marcus mock apologized to him. Besides, it will do you some good to interact with people your age, instead of us stiff and boring science guys back here at Logos. The blonde grumbled something unintelligible under his breath. Besides, let me tell you a secret. Marcus leaned close to the blonde. The school was an all-girls school up until the last year. Think of all the hot girls you'll be seeing. You're practically living a teenage boy's wet dream. The blonde couldn't deny that. That sounded, without a doubt, nice. He, after all, was only a young man with the same basic needs and instincts as any other guy. So he couldn't say that this wasn't at least a little interesting. The blonde released a deep breath in resignation. Alright, he muttered in defeat, and Marcus patted him on his back, laughing. That's the spirit. He encouraged the young superhuman. Now go pack some clothes. The rest is being paid for by UN funds. Flashback end. Naruto bit down on a slice of toast and downed a glass of orange juice for his breakfast. It is not much, but it will do. Naruto thought as he slipped into his uniform. Well, at least the uniforms aren't hideous. The boys' uniforms consisted of a black blazer with white accents, a white long-sleeved dress shirt with a black ribbon on the collar, matching black pants, and brown dress shoes. Compared to, say, a green uniform, Naruto shuddered as he imagined it. That would have been horrible. He straightened the ribbon, which was perhaps the only part Naruto thought looked ridiculous, and stepped out of the house, making his way towards his new school. The spring semester had been going for a few days now, and he would join his class 2C on this day. I guess it pays off to have connections in the government, else I probably wouldn't have been accepted at all during this semester. The blonde commented offhandedly to himself and continued on his merry way until he came upon the school building, which, in his opinion, could be compared to some kind of mansion from the fancy exterior alone. All around him both boys and girls, mostly girls though, were hurrying to their classes. After getting directions to class 2C from one of the many students that attended the school, he stood outside of said room. With his hearing he could understand what everyone inside of that room was saying. Today a transfer student will be joining our class. The homeroom teacher stated to his class, which began talking amongst each other in a low rumbling tone until it was a steady background noise. I wonder if the new student is a boy or a girl. I hope the transfer student is a girl. I just want to know if the transfer student is going to be a nice person. Let's hope that if he is a guy he isn't a pervert like those of the pervert trio. Quiet. The teacher called, not loud, but in a calm and stern voice that got the students to shut up and listen. Now if he could enter the room. He can introduce himself to you all. The teacher of class 2C stressed the he so that everyone that wondered as to what Naruto's gender was would shut up. The blonde walked into the class and scanned the students. Most looked at him with a sense of interest, a curiosity that showed they wanted to know more about him. Some of the girls even had figurative hearts in their eyes as they looked at him, whispering amongst each other. He is so hot. Yeah, even hotter than Kiba. Hey. What? I'm just saying what I and many others must be thinking. The only one that stood out was a blonde youth, not as blonde as Naruto was though. He had a bit of an effeminate look to him, making said person look like a Bishounen. His gaze was filled with curiosity as well, but it wasn't in the same way everyone else looked at him. This guy was gauging him like he wouldn't say an experienced fighter, but at least a well-trained one. Naruto filed that away for further reference. That guy might not even be a devil, he could just as well, despite his looks, be some kind of delinquent that was looking to put the new guy in his place. Naruto cleared his throat and grabbed their attention. Nice to meet you all, my name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Since that's a mouthful to say, just call me Naruto, or if you have to use a surname, use Uzumaki. The blonde rubbed his chin and thought what other things he could mention. I've lived here in Japan, specifically Kyoto, until I was 5 when I lost my parents in an accident. No one had noticed how his demeanor had shifted when he said that it was an accident, save for Kiba. He's not telling the truth, what is he hiding? Kiba thought to himself. Kiba was far from paranoid, but there is no telling if the church hadn't smuggled an exorcist into the school to assassinate the devils that lived here. And then I moved to America when I was adopted. I've lived there until a few days ago and now I'm attending school here. So please take care of me. He finished his introduction with a formal bow, and the teacher nodded. That will do. Now take that empty seat to the back of the class in the middle of the row. The instructor ordered and Naruto did as asked. Now if you all would open your textbooks on page 52, we can start the lesson where we last stopped. Now who can tell me about? During lunch break he had been surrounded by a lot of girls as he was looking for a good spot to sit down and eat. What was it like in America? Yeah, can you tell us any stories? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you want to go to karaoke with us? And he was pelted by many more questions. Girls, please calm down. I couldn't answer any of those questions if you keep asking one after another. He stated and smiled, which got them to stop talking. Well, to answer some of your questions. No, I can't go to karaoke with you. I still have to take care of quite a few things because of the move, you know. The girls were visibly disappointed by that fact. Maybe some other time, okay? This got them to perk up again, and the blonde felt like he might regret having said that. As for your other questions. No, I do not have a girlfriend and I couldn't tell you any interesting stories, sorry. It was pretty normal but nice, not all that dissimilar from here to be honest. As Naruto kept walking and answering the questions, yet having to eat his lunch, felt somebody look at him. He looked up and saw an open window with 2 girls, who were absolutely stunning in Naruto's opinion, staring down at him in interest. The first had blue-grayish eyes, a light skin tone. He then switched his attention to the second girl, or rather woman, as they both were far from being girls. She had long black hair tied in a ponytail. Her hair was just as long as that of her crimson-haired friend, reaching down to her legs. Her eyes were a nice shade of violet and she too possessed an ample bosom. Both wore the girl uniform of Kuo Gakuen. The girl's uniform consisted of a white long-sleeved button-down shirt with a black ribbon on the collar, a black shoulder cape and matching button-down corset, and a magenta skirt with white accents. Naruto gestured up at the window. Say, who are those girls up there? The girls around him looked up and he almost had to cover his ears at the following sound. Hi. The female students around him shrieked in unison. Those are the 2 ladies of Kuo. The most beautiful and elegant girls. Ria's Gremory and Himejima Akeno. They explained and waved their hand up at the window. Hello, Ria's senpai, Akeno senpai. They greeted the 2 girls with utmost respect. Well, they do have that right, they are beautiful. The blonde admitted to himself. Inside the building, as always, Ria's and Akeno were enjoying their lunch break together. When they, or rather Ria's, noticed a blonde boy surrounded by a lot of girls walking down over the school ground. At first Ria's thought it might have been Kiba, but the shade of blonde was much too deep to be him. And now that she looked closer she realized that the boy didn't look anything like Kiba. He lacked the effeminate Bishounen look Kiba had in favor of a more toned and masculine body. Say, Akeno, do you know who that is? The crimson-haired beauty inquired of her friend. Ara. Is Butchu already interested in the new student? The black-haired woman teased. The redhead blinked a few times, taking in what her queen had just said. We have a new student at this school. I guess you were too occupied with your research to take note of such a thing. Akeno responded. He joined Kiba-kun's class today. Word travels pretty fast. A lot of girls are already claiming that he is the hottest guy at the school. Riaz nodded as she took in the information, deep in thought. There is something unusual about him, I can't quite place it though. Ara, so Butchu really is interested in the new student after all. Akeno commented with a teasing smile. I already checked his presence. He is no devil, angel, fallen angel, any sort of hybrid or even a magician. He is a simple human. That can't be. The crimson-haired devil refused to admit that this boy was a completely normal human. You might just be developing a crush on him. Riaz could literally feel Akeno grinning even though she wasn't looking, and the black-haired girl's lips were closed. That's preposterous. Riaz scoffed at the notion. Yes, he is good looking, I'll admit that much, but that's not enough to get my attention in that way. If you say so. Akeno was amused that she could still get under her king's skin like that. It was evening now and Naruto let himself drop down on his bed, relishing in the softness of it, when his cell phone ringed. It was one of the newer smartphone types. The caller ID revealed that it was Marcus who was calling him. "Hello Marcus." The blonde spoke. "Hey Naruto. How was your first day?" "I don't know why but even with my superhuman stamina and compared to all that training I did, exhausting." "That's because you are not used to being in social situations. You are so used to being in the company of very few people or even being alone that being in the presence of so many drains you pretty fast." "I guess so," Naruto responded, and honestly he had no better explanation that was why he would accept it for now. "So find anything out yet?" "Well there is one student, his name is Yudo Kiba who seems pretty suspicious, but I couldn't confirm anything yet." "That's good and all but what about a girlfriend?" Naruto could pretty much feel Marcus grinning over the phone. "Have you seen any hot girl you would consider taking as your girlfriend?" Naruto sighed in annoyance. "You know with the devil thing I have no time for a girlfriend." "Oh come on don't give me that nonsense. You can't let an opportunity like this go to waste," the scientist complained. Defeated Naruto finally admitted to actually. "Huh? Yeah, very qualified response. I've met or rather seen two pretty beautiful women." "Who tell?" So he told Marcus about his meeting or rather seeing of Rias and Akeno. "Wow, you lucky bastard you. I guess you probably are spoiled for choice now." "Yes so any other reason you called me?" "Oh yes. Thank you for reminding me. I wanted to ask about your powers. Victor mentioned them to me, but I forgot to ask about it during the debriefing." "What do you want to know about them? Like what kind of things can you do with it?" "Well Victor explained it as psychokinesis. I can manipulate various things with my mind. Changing shape from liquid to solid, move it and whatnot. So I heard you can even create fire using your mind." "That's right. Victor called it pyrogenesis. I turn my, well you could call it mental energy into thermal energy and combust the air until I get a flame." "So could you just create anything you wanted that way? Say something like weapons? Like a gun or even a simple knife?" "Well I tried that, but all I got was a headache and a nosebleed." I asked Victor about it and he theorized that as long as I didn't manipulate something existing or turned my energy from one type into another, creating something out of basically nothing was something akin to reality manipulation and alteration. He wasn't sure if I would ever be strong enough to be able to use psychogenesis in the way that I can use psychokinesis or if it would be even possible to achieve that level at all. Anyways why the interest like that? I mean I doubt an engineer like you could get anything useful from me telling you about that." "No, nothing you need to concern yourself with just a really far off project. I doubt I'll ever really get to start it anyway. But we'll see until then. Anyways I'll be returning to my own work now. Good night and good luck with your girls." Naruto sighed as Marcus hung up on him. Well, tomorrow is a new day and new just as boring and tiring day. Naruto could already feel a headache forming and it had nothing to do with his powers. 1 week later, Naruto had managed to adjust to the student lifestyle pretty well over the last week, considering the boring lectures and getting hounded and asked out by girls daily. However as for his main goal, he had made no significant progress there. Kiba remained a possibility after talking to him for a bit. Flashback, it was his second day at school now and decided to strike up a conversation with Kiba. After all maybe the guy would slip up in some way and reveal himself. So after their last lesson he went over to the effeminate blonde. "Can I help you, Naruto-san?" The boy asked him politely. "I just wanted to ask you, since you've been at this school for a much longer time than me and all, if it is mandatory for students to join a club. Since I know some schools are pretty adamant about that sort of thing." Naruto asked his classmate. Kiba shook his head in answer. "I'm not the best to answer that kind of question. You might want to ask the student council for a better answer, but as far as I know nobody is forced to join a club." "Alright, thank you for answering my question." Naruto thanked the other blonde. "Say if I wanted to join a club what kind of choices would I have?" "Again for a full catalog of clubs you should be asking the student council or wait until recruitment day for all the freshmen." The blonde devil responded, "But we have the usual sport clubs like tennis, kendo, football, baseball, swimming you know. And non-sport clubs like photography. I hope that helped you." "Yeah that's pretty informative." Naruto nodded. "I have a last question though. Why is he asking me this much?" Kiba thought to himself, he knew that even if Naruto was confirmed to be a 100% bondified human, there was something unusual about him, but Kiba remained polite. "Sure I don't mind answering another question. What kind of club are you in? You seem like a pretty nice guy, but you always have to refuse the offers of all the girls in favor of your club activities, so what kind of club takes that much of your time?" Naruto continued asking Kiba. "I'm part of the occult research club." He responded polite as ever. "That's unusual." Naruto commented surprise. "Definitely sounds like a cover of some kind." He thought to himself, "I pegged you more for the sports type of person." Kiba nodded in response. "Yes it is very unusual and many consider it weird, so you probably won't like it." "Oh not at all." Naruto smiled hoping it would get Kiba to break out of his polite exterior. "I think it sounds very interesting. What do I have to do to join the club?" Naruto started acting excited. "Fill out an application, summon a demon. This was the first time Kiba's polite exterior broke and he sounded unsure. I don't know, I guess you would have to ask the club president about it. Okay then. I'll probably come by tomorrow. Where does the occult research club meet by the way? In the old schoolhouse to the back of the school, near the woods. Alright, thanks again for your help Kiba. Naruto bid the blonde farewell. I better tell Ria's butchu about this. The devil decided. One day later, Naruto stood in front of the large building. He wouldn't say it was run down because it was still in a good shape, but obviously nobody had taken care of the exterior in quite a while, with all the pieces of foliage growing over the wood. He knocked on the door and entered the building. He walked into a largely wood-paneled room with Victorian-style couches and chairs along the wall. Inside of the room were Kiba, as Naruto expected, a cute petite white-haired girl with hazel eyes, who was happily munching on some sweets, and Himejima Akeno. Ara. We have a visitor. Akeno commented, pleasantly surprised. It is nice to finally meet you, Naruto-san. It is nice to meet you as well, Akeno-chan. The blonde responded, throwing her a small smile. I didn't think you'd be part of this club. Ara. How forward of you, Naruto-kun. She said in a sweet, maybe too sweet, voice. Why don't you have a seat? Butchu isn't here yet. Thank you, that is much appreciated. He remained as polite as he could. Akeno placed a cup of hot tea in front of him. Thank you. Naruto took a sip of the steaming beverage, and while he wasn't that much of a tea person, he had to admit, this is pretty good. Why, thank you for your kind words, Naruto-kun. Akeno smiled once more at him and set out to brew some more tea, so Naruto turned his attention to the other two occupants of the room. Hey Kiba. How are you? He asked his fellow blonde. Very well. Thank you for asking, Naruto-san. Kiba responded politely as it was usual for him, before sticking to silence. It seems I won't get any more out of him for now. Naruto realized from the way Kiba kept his distance, so he turned to the last person inside the room. The white-haired girl seemed pretty young, but she wore the school's uniform, so Naruto deduced that she was probably a first-year student. Hey. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, it's nice to meet you. He introduced himself to her and hoped that she would tell him her name. The girl looked up from her sweets. Toju Kaneko. Was the only thing she said before returning to devouring her sweets. Naruto couldn't tell if the girl was just normally this cold, if she didn't like him, or if she was told not to say anything. At that moment a new person entered the club room. Welcome back, Butchu. Akeno greeted her president respectfully. We have a guest. The new person took a look at him and Naruto stood up and turned around to see Ria's Gremory. Another person I didn't expect to be part of this club, Naruto admitted to himself. It is nice to finally meet you in person, Naruto-kun. The crimson-haired beauty told him. Kiba told me yesterday that you wanted to make a request. That's right, I wanted to join this club because it sounds very interesting. The blonde claimed. Are you sure you want to join this club, Naruto-kun? She asked him, testing his conviction. This is a very unusual choice after all. People could think that you are weird or creepy. I'm absolutely sure about this. Naruto affirmed. So what do I have to do to join? Ria shared a brief look with Akeno. I'm not sure if we can accept you yet, Naruto. Ria said, although the truth was that this club was only supposed to be a cover for her peerage and normal humans weren't supposed to join. Let me think about this for a day, okay? Tomorrow I will then give you a special test to see if you are really serious about joining the occult research club. I will just give him a task he'll never be able to complete and then won't have to deal with him. Ria's thought, if this doesn't discourage him from the start. Alright. I will be waiting for that test then. Naruto said with determination. Have a nice day then, Kaneko-chan, Kiba-san, Akeno-chan and Rias-chan. After having bid them farewell he left the building, going home. Once Naruto had left, Ria slumped into one of the chairs. I could use a hot bath now. Ria said with a sigh. He is definitely an interesting one. Akeno commented, licking her lips. Why would a normal human want to join this club though? She asked in slight exasperation. All the students that weren't part of her or Sona Citri's peerage usually ignored that they were part of this club to preserve the perfect image they had of the members. However, they still had to adhere to the rules of a normal club, which was why they couldn't just refuse someone that wanted to join for no reason. Sona has it much easier. The only way someone could join the student council is if she accepts them for a position. You seem worried, Butchu. Akeno commented and placed a cup of tea in front of her king. I guess I am. She admitted after a short silence. This Naruto is just a completely normal human. I don't sense a sacred gear, an aptitude for magic or any other otherworldly influence, and yet he seems to know or at least suspect that something is up. And if he, a normal human, were to join this club, we would be greatly impeded in our actions, or we would be dragging him into a world where he won't be able to defend himself if it came to it. What if he has darker intentions, Butchu? Kiba put forth, and Rias knew that this could be a possibility as well. However, he was a simple human without a sacred gear, and somebody like that could do little to nothing to a devil. Warm? Kaneko commented with little emotion as usual for her. What is warm, Kaneko? Rias inquired of her rook. His spirit is warm. The white-haired girl said. Rias said in deep thought. cats in general, but especially Nekomata, had an excellent judgment when it came to reading somebody's aura or spirit, so it was probably not very likely that he had any ill intentions if Kaneko said that much about him. However, Rias was still determined to keep him away for his safety. It was the best. The next day during lunch break, Rias came to Naruto to tell him what he would have to do to join the occult research club. Rias-senpai. The girls that were as usual around Naruto squealed, "What is she doing here? Could you please let me talk to Naruto-kun?" The crimson-haired devil asked with a good-natured smile on her lips. The girls parted for the lady of Kuo Gakuen and started whispering amongst each other. What could she want with Naruto-kun? One asked with curiosity. Maybe she wants to confess to him. Another one put forth. Wouldn't they look so good together? A third one said dreamily. Oh, hello, Rias. Naruto greeted the president of the occult research club and turned to the girls. Could you please leave us alone for a moment? Of course. Everything for you, Naruto-kun. The girls grouped up a good distance away from them and continued to talk amongst one another. You seem to be really popular already, Naruto-kun. The redhead commented with slight mirth in her voice. Naruto let out a small sigh. Yes, I unfortunately am. He answered, they are all really nice, but it really is tiring, especially if I have to deal with it every day. Rias laughed lightly and Naruto thought it was quite a pleasant sound. Yes, I can imagine. Rias was even more popular among the student body, but she seemed so unapproachable that few if anyone ever hounded her like that. Sure, there was the occasional new student who confessed to her, but that was about it. So I take it you have decided what task I have to fulfill to get to join your club. The blonde stated and Rias nodded. Rias' first idea was for him to summon a demon, but if he happened to walk across one of the familiars handing out simplified summoning contracts in the city and he had enough desire to summon a devil, the cat would be out of the bag. That is why Rias scrapped that idea and thought of something different. I will allow you to join our club if you manage to find and bring me the feather of an angel. This should prove to be a sufficiently impossible task for him to fulfill. She thought to herself, angels and even fallen angels rarely involve themselves directly with normal humans. So there was no way he would be able to stumble upon one by chance. Alright, I accept this challenge, Rias. He stated and Rias could feel the determination. I won't fail this. And for a second Rias was actually worried that he would somehow manage to complete this task, but then scoffed inwardly at the notion of it. Flashback end. After that visit to the club, he had added the members of the occult research club to his list of suspects as well. The only problem Naruto had now was finding an angel or even fallen angel and getting some feathers of their wings. Otherwise it would be close to impossible to observe them without them getting overly suspicious about it. And there was another thing. Ise, one of the members of the pervert trio, had apparently found a girlfriend. Naruto found such a thing very strange indeed. The guy can be a nice person at times, but he is too much of a pervert. Naruto thought, having briefly met or rather heard about the boys and his friends' antics. Not one girl in this school would want to be in his close proximity if she had to, and they likely would only touch him with a 50-foot pole. So the only girl that could have reasonable interest in him is one that doesn't know him. Naruto deduced, but why would anyone want to date a completely unknown person as a girlfriend? Sure, getting to know him better is one thing. But that girl, Amano Yuma, instantly wanted to be his girlfriend. There definitely is something foul. He didn't have anything against to say, except that he didn't know how to moderate his pervertedness and he didn't wish to destroy the boy's happiness, but even he had to realize that such a thing was too good to be true. Naruto's instinct just told him that something was wrong with that Yuma girl. He didn't know what exactly, but he knew there was something. That was why he had to warn the boy not to go with her on a date today. He saw the brown-haired boy almost skipping across the schoolyard in happiness. Hey, Issei, can I talk to you for a second? He stopped the brown-haired youth. In the distance, Naruto picked up some girls talking about how Issei should be keeping away from him and how they hoped he wouldn't get infected with the boy's pervertedness. What is it? The boy actually glared at him, for what reason Naruto didn't know. You were going to meet that Yuma girl today, right? The blonde asked. Yes, what about it? Issei retorted almost scathingly. Don't meet her. There is something dangerous about her. Naruto tried to warn him, but that caused the boy to snap angrily back at him. Shut up. Don't try to take away my first girlfriend. He raged at the blonde superhuman. You and that damn Kiba can have any girl at this school that you want, so be happy with it. You don't have to take away what little happiness I have gained. She is just trying to trick you, Issei. Please trust me on this one. Issei frowned before smirking almost arrogantly. I bet you are just saying those bad things about Yuma because she rejected you and you can't stand seeing me with her. You must be really jealous right now. The perverted boy taunted Naruto. No, would you use your brain please? Naruto asked and felt like he was talking to a brick wall. You will end up hurt if you continue like this. Naruto warned him further, but Issei stubbornly refused to listen to him. Don't talk to me again. These were the last words Issei spoke to the blonde before leaving him. God damn that idiot. Naruto felt like smacking him in the face for his idiocy, but strange as it sounded he could somehow understand the boy well. I have to play babysitter it seems. Once school had ended he was trying to tail Issei on his date with his girlfriend Amano Yuma, but was stopped by a trio of girls. You promised to go to karaoke with us today, Naruto-kun. One of them said and Naruto remembered that he had indeed promised them such a thing, in the hopes that would get them to leave him alone for a while. Only now when I really would have needed that time I don't have it. Naruto thought and he wouldn't break his promises. He just hoped Issei didn't get himself into too much trouble while Naruto wasn't there to keep an eye on him. A few hours later, the orange light of the twilight sun illuminated the city as the girls finally released him after being satisfied with his karaoke performance. He wasn't sure if Issei's date had already ended or not or where he was if it had not ended yet, so it was probably futile to start a wild goose chase for the boy. The only way Naruto was going to find him was by pure chance. The blonde decided to take the shortcut from the shopping district to his apartment, which led him through the city's park. The park however was strangely empty and an eerie sense of dread hung in the air. As he got closer to the center of the park, he could feel something pushing and shoving at his mind, trying to nudge him away, telling him that he shouldn't want to be here, but he ignored that suggestion, banishing it from his thoughts and stopping the unnatural feeling from affecting him. Once he had made it to the large fountain that stood in the middle of the park, he saw a sight that he did not want to see. The large black-winged creature stood over the lifeless husk of a familiar brown-haired human. It was Issei with a large gaping hole where his stomach was supposed to be. The fallen angel, who was dressed in black clothes that might have come straight out of some bondage catalog. She had long black hair, violet eyes, and the rest of her figure was very pleasant to look at as well. This is my fault Naruto realized grimacing. This was what he signed up for. Keeping humanity safe from supernatural threats like this fallen angel who had killed Issei. He had failed in his duty of protection this time, but he hoped that at least retribution would make up for some small part of the life that had been lost today. You, bitch. Naruto growled in anger and cocked his fist, lunging at the fallen angel who was looking at her work with a sense of satisfaction, which was why the angel didn't see Naruto coming until it was too late. His fist struck her in the face, lacking any weaponry at the moment, not that light-based weapons would be all too effective in this case. A small shockwave rippled through the air and sent the angel flying through two trees, eliciting cries of pain from her. As the black-winged woman pulled herself up, face bruised and bleeding, he knew that his attack had been much more effective than when he had struck that stray devil he had fought. Naruto thought that in his anger, he probably had reinforced his attack by increasing the kinetic force behind the blow through his mental powers. That fucking hurt you damn human. The fallen angel spat at him both figuratively as well as literally, though she spat blood in this case. I hope you are ready to be eradicated for daring to touch me. She stated, her face distorted in an angry grimace. The blonde readied himself in a battle stance. Bring it on. He replied in cold anger and charged at the black-haired woman once more. His speed, now enhanced as well by his powers, made it hard for the fallen angel to react. She defended herself well but was pushed further and further away from the initial point of contact. Rainer knew that if the blonde kept this up she, as unlikely as it sounded, would lose to this human. He wouldn't let her form any of her light spears. His physical specs just far surpassed hers for that. So she had to outwit him. If you keep attacking me the boy will certainly die. She said to Naruto who was just about to strike her again and stopped mid-motion, however he kept his guard up against any surprise attacks. You're lying, fallen angel. He retorted angrily. Did you check his pulse or his vitals? He was just barely clinging to life, that pathetic little human. If you could call an ambulance right now he might just survive once in the hospital. Rainer stated, and she wasn't fully lying. The boy had still been clinging to life and perhaps he could be saved. He was in a hospital the instant he had been wounded by her. The boy had likely bled out by now or just given up on life, but this other human didn't need to know that. Naruto gritted his teeth. He knew that he had not checked Issei's vitals, so he might have been still barely alive. He just had been so enraged over his failure that he had ignored the possible rescue of Issei. Alright, fallen angel. I'll let you go for now. Naruto spoke, his voice icy as the river Cocytus, which sent shivers down Rainer's spine. A human making me feel fear? That should be impossible. Rainer cried out in her mind, but this human seemed to be far from normal. Perhaps he too possesses a sacred gear. But make no mistake. If he dies and should I lay my eyes a second time upon you, I will make you wish that you could beg the god you forsake for forgiveness so that he can protect you from me. Cold sweat formed on Rainer's body. We'll see about that, human. She responded and flew away. The blonde then quickly pulled forth his cell phone and called for an ambulance. Exhausted, he dropped on one knee as some blood poured out of his nose. He wiped the place under his nose with 2 fingers and looked at the blood on his index and middle finger. It seems that kind of augmentation takes quite a lot out of me right now. He could now feel the slight drumming of a headache forming in his head, but he pulled himself up to get to Issei. He made his way back to the fountain plaza, darkness having settled over the city now. However, as he stood there, the blood was gone just like Issei's body. What is going on here? The blonde wanted to know. I'm sure that Issei's bleeding body lay there. That was no illusion, was it? So where has it gone? It was quite the mystery to the blonde superhuman, and once the ambulance had arrived he embarrassedly had to explain to them that there was no one wounded and that he had just played a prank on them, for which he got heavily reprimanded by the doctors. They told him that if he pulled another stunt like this they would call the cops on him for that. Now Naruto had the mystery of a disappearing corpse to solve on top of confirming his suspicions about the occult research club. At least I have my ticket to joining the club now. Naruto muttered as he picked up one of the feathers Rainer had lost while he fought her and pocketed it. After all, Rias never said what kind of angel the feather had to be from. Naruto's apartment, Japan, local time. 10:26 p.m. The blonde-haired superhuman, Naruto, was laying on his bed, resting from today's ordeals. Naruto stared at the black feather between his fingers, turning it, feeling the soft thrum of residual power, a reminder of his first failure. But I still don't understand how the body could disappear like that. Someone had to have taken the body, but for what purpose? The blonde asked himself when he noticed the vibrations of his cell phone on the nightstand next to his bed. He picked his cell phone up and looked at the screen. The called ID showed it to be Victor. He pressed the accept button. "What's up, Victor?" Naruto asked, his voice downtrodden, both from exhaustion and the grim feeling his failure had left him with. "Well, I actually just wanted to ask if you had made any progress so far with your investigation, but you sound really down. Did anything happen?" "Yeah, you could say that." The blonde responded in a grim voice. "So what is it? Girl trouble?" Naruto groaned in annoyance, not in the mood for any such shenanigans. "I had hoped you would not act like that too. Marcus is already annoying enough without you adding to it as well. But no, it doesn't have anything to do with girls." "I'm sorry, Naruto. I didn't mean it like that. I guess even with all that superhuman thing we want you to be just like a normal human, to not feel any different. So what happened then that you sound like this?" "A few hours ago, Issei, one of the students at my school, was attacked by a fallen angel and fatally wounded. I beat the snot out of the angel and called an ambulance after that, hoping to be able to save him, only the body had gone missing. No blood there, nothing. He is probably dead by now anyway, but a corpse should not simply disappear like that." Naruto explained, feeling a little anger well up again, which he quickly quelled. "You are right, a corpse, and the blood couldn't simply disappear like that. This is really strange." Victor mused and thought, "I'm sorry for your loss. It can't be easy taking a failure like that, considering the heavy burden we placed on you as a human bastion against the devils." "It's alright, it was bound to happen sooner or later," Naruto sighed. "I guess I just did not expect it to happen so soon, you know. But you stole some texts from the church about the supernatural, right? Anything that has to do with needing a corpse or anything like that?" "I'm afraid not. The most we could get from our informant before he got caught were really the basics of the basics. A rudimentary rundown of the three factions, how they came to be, the general hierarchy among them, bits about the Great War, and snippets of sacred gears appearing throughout history, in particular those that were possessed by a saint." The Russian scientist explained. "Any idea why the boy was attacked?" "Not really. Do you know what could set off a fallen angel?" The blonde inquired and could hear clicking and typing on a keyboard in the background. "Well, the texts about fallen angels and devils are pretty biased, so I couldn't tell you how accurate that is, but according to the church most fallen angels harbor a great deal of animosity for devils and will go out of their way to kill them." "Do you think the one that was attacked could have been a devil in disguise?" "No, I don't think so. The fallen angel that killed him even called him a human. So that couldn't be it. Anything else?" "The only other relevant information would be that they are trying to tempt the remaining pure angels into falling, but I don't think that really applies here." Naruto tried to think of something that would cause a fallen angel to go out of its way to kill a human, but could think of nothing. Maybe this Issei guy was somehow dangerous to the fallen angels and they decided to take care of them before he could act on it, Victor suggested. "But what could make a fallen angel so afraid of a human that they would kill him? Besides being someone that could actually kill them like me?" Naruto thought. "A sacred gear. A sacred gear." Scientist and soldier both exclaimed at the same time, arriving at the same conclusion. "Did the church record any sacred gears of incredible power that would make something like a fallen angel nervous?" Naruto asked, and here Victor rapidly hammering on his keyboard. "Here we have it," he proclaimed. "Amongst the record here there is a mentioning of 13 sacred gears with extraordinary powers. They are called Longinus, named after the holy spear of destiny of Saint Longinus that supposedly struck the final blow against the Son of God, Jesus Christ. So it had to have been a Longinus." Naruto stated to think that such a powerful thing was stuck in the body of that pervert. "That's one part of your mystery solved then." "Yeah, I don't think I will find out anything more at the moment though. Now, did you make any progress in identifying the devils and discovering their intentions?" "So far I have not yet been able to determine the identity of any devils for certain, however my list of suspects has increased to encompass the members of what is known as the Occult Research Club. Something I think that could be well qualified as hiding in plain sight. That indeed sounds suspicious. Victor agreed. What more could you find out? The members of this club are Yuuto Kiba, who I already mentioned as suspect. Taoju Kaneko, Himejima Akeno and Ria's Gremory. I mentioned those last two to Marcus when I last talked to him. Yeah, the two drop-dead gorgeous girls you met. Victor said that is pretty unfortunate. Naruto rolled his eyes. Not that Victor could see it. Yes, very unfortunate. He stated dryly, since it was just annoying how those two had to push him to finding a girlfriend anyway. I will be joining that club tomorrow, and that will put me into a closer position to continue my observation. Excellent. The scientist said, and before I forget it, Marcus was pretty excited a few days ago. Something about a new toy for you to try out. I think it's going to be delivered to you tomorrow, and Marcus will call you about it as well. That's good to know. Thanks for the notice. The blonde answered, well, if that was everything I will end the call now and go to sleep. I have a major headache. Sure, no thing, Naruto. Sleep well. Victor wished him a good night and Naruto hung up, throwing the cell phone back on his nightstand before falling into a deep sleep. The next day, Naruto was woken by the bright light streaming into his room and birds singing on the other side of his bedroom window. Groggily, Naruto pulled himself up. How late is it? He asked himself, noting that he hadn't been woken by the infernal noise of his alarm clock. He checked the clock on his cell phone display, which told him that he had woken up half an hour after when he usually was woken. Fuck. Naruto muttered, he really had to stop the habit of breaking his alarm clock each morning. Normally he would have replaced it, but with everything going on yesterday, I must have forgotten about it. With greater than human speed he threw himself out of the bed, changed into his school uniform, pocketing the feather, and downed a glass of orange juice before rushing out of his house towards his school. Luckily he was quick on foot and arrived long before the bell for the first lesson rang, 15 minutes before in fact. Most students were leisurely strolling into the building conversing with each other, however one panicked youth stood out amongst them. It was a familiar boy with brown hair who was going around asking everyone he saw a question. What is this? Naruto thought, alarmed. He was sure the boy had to have been dead, some sort of corpse laying hidden somewhere on this planet, and yet here he is completely confused, rushing from person to person. Just one day ago Issei's life had been great. He finally had a girlfriend after all the years of hoping and trying, and then somehow everything went wrong. He had this weirdest dream that Yuma, his girlfriend, had transformed into some busty bondage woman with black wings, summoned a spear of light and impaled him on it. But that was just crazy, right? So he decided to call his girlfriend, see how she was the day after their date, and if she wanted to meet up with him again after school. That was when the next strange thing happened. He couldn't find Yuma's cell phone number anywhere among her contacts. In fact, the contact amongst his address book had been gone as well. When he came down to have breakfast with his family, he asked them about Yuma. He was sure he had told them about his girlfriend, but they thought that he was joking or had once again fallen in love with some kind of character from an anime or a hentai game he had played. But hey, that had only happened once and Issei had been much younger then. So Issei thought that his parents had never believed him in the first place about Yuma, but both of his friends Mitsuda and Motohama had not only met her, but he had personally introduced them, so the two had to know her, but they didn't. The two acted like Yuma had never existed, said he should stop pulling so obvious pranks on them. Issei then had started everyone he met about her. Surely someone must have seen him leave with her, anyone at all. But they all ignored him or told him to stop deluding himself. I can't be going crazy, can I? I did not imagine Yuma, did I? The more people claimed to not know her, the less Issei was sure of his sanity. That was when he spotted a familiar tall blonde. That's right. Naruto warned me about her, he must know about Yuma. The brown-haired pervert rushed to his only hope. Naruto-san, tell me you remember Yuma, Amano Yuma, my girlfriend. Naruto stared at the desperate boy in front of him. Naruto was sure that it was no illusion, someone with a mask or any kind of impersonator. So he shot the boy a look filled with scrutiny, which might have come across as a glare, and asked one question, who are you? Issei recoiled in shock. Naruto didn't recognize him, so did that mean he didn't exist as well? No, that can't be right. A lot of people recognized me. Issei thought to himself after being filled with even more panic for a brief moment before calming down. Then he remembered how much of an asshole he had been to the blonde yesterday. He probably just meant well. Issei thought to himself, and with the situation I am in now, I think he was right. I'm hi to Issei. Issei stated, listen, I know I was a jerk to you yesterday and I am sorry about that, but Issei's attention was pulled towards the ringing bell, and when he turned back to where Naruto was supposed to be, the blonde had already pulled way ahead. No, Issei thought in dismay as he failed to get a response from the blonde, and the way he is surrounded by girls very lunch break, I'll never get to talk to him. While Naruto was walking to his classroom, he was in deep thought about Issei. Dead or near dead bodies don't just walk around like nothing has happened. Even if he survived and was somehow brought to a hospital by someone else, he should be bedridden for weeks, months even. Naruto cursed inwardly at the even bigger mystery. I'll probably have to cut my time in the occult research club short and observe him these next few days. This lunch break he sought out Ria's to show her the proof of his completed task. The crimson-haired girl was together with Akeno chatting amicably when they noticed him. Ria smiled pleasantly at him. "Hello, Naruto-kun." She greeted him. Ara. Nice to see you again, Naruto-kun." Akeno greeted him as well. "It is nice to see you two beauties again." He complimented them, returning the smile. "My. Isn't he the charmer, but you?" Akeno commented praisingly, leaning her right cheek into her palm. "I could just eat him up." She licked her lips seductively, and a small shiver trailed down Naruto's spine. "Is that a good thing?" He asked himself, uncertain of the answer to that question. "So did you come to give up on your task, Naruto-kun?" Rias asked, and hoping that he would do so. "It wouldn't do well for a normal human to be involved in my peerage's inner dealings." And yet there was a little part of her that hoped he would succeed so she could keep seeing him. "Oh no, on the contrary, I came to tell you that I succeeded," Naruto said with a big grin and pulled out the black feather. Ria's and Akeno's eyes widened in surprise, and both were shocked into a stupor. At this moment one could hear a pin drop were one to be dropped. Rias could not believe it, this absolutely normal human had somehow managed to acquire the feather of an angel, a fallen angel to boot. She could feel the residual power of the angel resting inside the feather. The red-haired devil wanted to scream in frustration at the mystery that was Uzumaki Naruto. How did he manage this? This should have been absolutely impossible. Her thoughts raced and revolved around the blonde. Somehow she found that quality of his to do the impossible attractive. But she wasn't falling in love with a human or anything like that. "That is incredible, Naruto-kun." Rias managed to say, completely composed so as to not arouse any suspicion. "Tell me, where did you find it?" "Oh, it was just laying around and I happened to stumble upon it." "Pretty lucky, wouldn't you say?" If possible, Naruto's grin widened, hoping it would put a further crack into their composed exterior. Ara. It seems like our club has a new member, but you." Akeno stated. "Yes, welcome to the Occult Research Club, Naruto-kun." "Congratulations," the club president said, and her voice seemed slightly strained. Rias knew that she could have put the authenticity of the feather in question, but the task she had given him was already pretty illegal. No club was allowed to demand any sort of entrance test. Naruto had just nice enough not to call her out on it. Now if she tried to deny him further, he could go to the administration with the case and force entry into the club, since they still had to adhere to the human rules. But the blonde-haired young man frustrated Rias to no end. She could make no sense of him. "Who or what are you?" "Thank you, Rias-chan." "Wait, I probably should call you Rias, but you now, right?" He asked for confirmation, and the red-headed woman nodded absent-mindedly. "Oh, just so you know, I don't have much time these next few days, so I am not going to be able to spend much time in the club until I am done." "That's alright, Naruto-kun. The club is pretty flexible in its attendance times anyway, so don't worry about that." Akeno told him, and for some reason Rias felt a pang of sadness that he would not be in the club as often. The young superhuman nodded and bid the two ladies of Kuo farewell. After school, Naruto began tailing Issei, who seemed just as confused and uncertain as this morning. He had at first spent time at the house of one of his friends from the pervert trio. Apparently the three had watched some sort of erotic video. As twilight enveloped the city, he had left the house again. Naruto continued to tail the brown-haired boy back to the park, to the fountain at which he had died. "I'm not imagining things, am I?" Naruto heard Issei ask himself. "Does he think that the events of yesterday were not real?" The blonde thought to himself, if he were some kind of devil or angel doppelganger, there would be no need for that, since who would he fool with that right now? He does not know I am here, so there is no need. Especially if Naruto considered his behavior and actions from tomorrow morning. He knew that this was the same Issei that Naruto had seen killed by the fallen angel yesterday. Suddenly soft steps echoed with each step from behind Issei as a man in a black coat and fedora approached the boy. "All alone, boy?" the man asked with a sense of intrigue and caused Issei to turn around, replying with a confused "Huh? Tell me, who is your master?" the man demanded of Issei. "I don't know what you are talking about, I have no master." Issei shouted back at the man in confusion. "No master, no comrades and no magician's mark? So I must assume you are a stray then." The man grinned beneath his fedora, and Naruto could now sense the bloodthirst emanating from the man, "which means I can get rid of you without problems. Leave me alone." Issei shouted in both confusion and fright as turned around and ran away. "And my prayer-on's away," the man complained with fake annoyance. "Even if I don't know how he survived, I won't fail my duties a second time. This time I will protect Issei," Naruto thought. A pair of black wings spread from the back of the man, and he flapped them a few times for good measure as he took to the air, flying slightly above the ground as he was about to follow the brown-haired boy. Only a blast of force knocked the angel aside. "Don't even think about it, fallen angel scum," Naruto warned the man while complaining inwardly again. "I'll have to do without a weapon." The fallen angel had only been slightly startled by the attack and turned his attention upon Naruto. "Ah, the mysterious human that almost managed to kill Rainer." The man stated and grinned, "She told us about you, and I couldn't believe that she let herself be bested by a human. But if you really are as strong as she claimed you are, then you would be an even better prey than that stray. Your friend couldn't deal with me yesterday, so what makes you think you can?" Naruto asked and threw another blast of pure force which the angel dodged rather easily. "Don't think me to be as inattentive as that, Rainer. You will have to do much better than that to best me." A spear of light formed in his hands, and the airborne spearman charged at the blonde, who dodged out of the way and manipulated a torrent of water to shoot at the fallen angel. The water rose from the fountain and with incredible speed moved towards the angel, who turned around and with a downward slice of his light spear, cut the torrent in half, making the water pass on each side of him. Admirable effort but not good enough. The fallen angel spoke and seemed rather disappointed. "It seems Rainer exaggerated when she told us of your power." Naruto remained silent and concentrated his power on the water once more, pulling even more from the fountain until it was empty. The water swirled around the fallen angel in a whirlpool-like fashion until it resembled a small tower. Naruto then used his powers to drain the thermal energy from water, which instantly froze in the air as a large explosive flame shot towards both ends of the ice funnel. He used his powers to fuel the flames more as the torrent of flames behind the ice caused it to melt into water again, followed by steam. As the steam dissipated, Naruto stared at the aftermath of his attack. The fallen angel was still hovering in the air, however his clothes had been nearly fully burned away, including his flesh, which was marred by severe burns. The fallen angel grunted in pain. "You are indeed strong, human." The angel praised him. "Your efforts are admirable, but in the end they were futile. You are probably exhausted from that attack, right?" The angel asked, and Naruto knew that it was true. While the use of his power was not quite as taxing on his body as yesterday's use had been, using it in so many different manners compared to his single form of manipulation he had used during his training did drain him pretty fast. "As long as I don't have a working weapon against the angels, and I am so quickly exhausted from using my powers, I am at a real disadvantage. Let it be known that your death was brought at the hands of the fallen angel. Don't seek." The fallen angel readied his spear but stopped mid-attack as he sensed something. The fallen angel seemed annoyed. "It seems our fight has to be cut short. Consider this a stroke of luck. The next time we meet I will finish you off." The angel warned and flew away. Naruto could now hear two pair of feet walking towards his position, which meant he had to get out of here. He used the rest of his mental reserves, fortunate that it didn't take much to do what he planned to, and stepped into the shadows of the trees. He sunk into the shadow, and at the outskirts of the park, he stepped out of the shadow of another tree. The blonde held his hand in front of his mouth as he felt sick. He had only tested this shadow movement once before, and while it allowed him to travel from one shadow to another, as long as they were connected, he still felt disoriented once he stepped out of the shadows. Back at the scene of the fight, Rias and Kaneko had just arrived where they had sensed the fight to be. Originally Rias had sensed her newest acquisition, Issei, to be in danger, and so had, together with Kaneko, teleported to his position to protect him. Only to find him completely safe. After promising the startled and absolutely confused boy an explanation tomorrow, she wanted to know what made the fallen angel stop chasing Issei. As normally a fallen angel only stopped chasing a presumed stray devil if said devil was dead, which Issei clearly was not. After her pawn had pointed her into the direction from which he came, she and Kaneko arrived there as fast as they could, only to find nothing. However, Rias noticed that the water out of the fountain was missing and that the air was unusual humid and hot. In fact, the air had a tropic feel to it. Fire and water magic. Rias muttered to herself as Kaneko stayed on the lookout for anything. Rias didn't know anything that favored these two types of magic, so who could have fought against the fallen angel and kept her pawn safe? Mystery after mystery kept piling up for Rias. First Naruto, and now this. The next day Naruto wasn't woken up by the sound of his alarm clock, which he finally managed to replace, but by the sound of his doorbell ringing. Naruto heaved himself out of his bed and managed to get to his door. He opened the door to his apartment, and outside of it stood a deliveryman with a long packet in his hands. "Delivery for Uzumaki Naruto," he said, and pushed a clipboard with a sheet of paper and a pen towards Naruto. The blonde signed the delivery and received the packet. "Have a good day," the deliveryman said, and got back into his truck, driving to the next building he had to make a delivery at. He placed the packet down on the floor and opened it. Inside of it was a sniper rifle, most likely light gun type. Attached to it was a card. High penetration, thermal scope, light rifle prototype. He weighed the rifle in his hands, and like the previous light gun he had, it was much lighter than an actual sniper rifle would have been. During lunch break, Naruto got the call from Marcus, just like Victor said he would. He left the classroom to have some peace while he talked to Marcus on the phone. Without the call taking his attention, Naruto would have noticed that Kiba had left the classroom, which he rarely did during lunch break. "What's up, Marcus?" the blonde asked his favorite engineer. "Hey Naruto. Did you get the packet?" Marcus inquired. "Yeah, I got it." "So what is so different about it from the light gun?" Naruto spoke quieter so that nobody would overhear them. "I was just about to explain that. Logo's engineer stated you do know how the light bullets have a pretty little penetration power because the array runs on battery power instead of magic power and that causes a lack of regulation in how much power actually is supposed to be used. Yes, I remember that much. The light gun's bullets went pretty fine through flesh, after which it dissipated when fired at something through an object, even if it was just a very thin stone wall, the leftover destructive power went close to zero. Well, I haven't wholly managed to fix that, but when you test this we will see how well I did. See, after the algorithm of the guys deciphered enough for me to add my own lines, I managed to have the array drain a full battery for a shot. In theory that should overcharge the bullet so much that it could punch through quite a few walls without losing any bit of its destructiveness. That's why I choose to go with a sniper rifle model, so that in case you miss or it doesn't work as intended, there is enough distance between you and whatever you were trying to kill that you can come up with an alternative plan. That's good to know. Next chance I get I'll try this out. Was this the project you asked me about my powers for? No, not at all. As I said, it's a very far off thing. Anyway, you have school right now, right? So I will no longer keep you from anything important. At that moment Marcus had hung up. Meanwhile in the occult research clubroom, Hiba had brought Issei to the occult research room where the brown-haired boy was greeted by Himejima Keno, who he had only known by name. Taoju Kaneko, whom he had met yesterday evening in Ria's Gremory. Hello Issei. The club's president greeted him as promised. I said I would give you an explanation about yesterday evening's events. The person that tried to attack you yesterday was a fallen angel. He desired to do so because you are a devil. Issei laughed loudly. Come on. Devils and angels aren't real. Don't try to trick me like that. Ria's expanded her bat wings, causing Issei's jaw to drop in astonishment. Do you now believe me? She asked him and retracted the wings. Every member of this club is a devil, Issei. Well, all except one, but he isn't here and he hasn't been in very often yet. This club is a cover for my peerage and you are a part of it too. But how? I'm a normal human. I couldn't be a devil. The brown-haired boy tried to deny what he was hearing. Riaz pulled out a picture of an to Issei, all too familiar face. Yuma-chan. He exclaimed. This girl, Amano Yuma, is a fallen angel. She killed you 2 days ago. And with your last breath your strong desire to at least die in the arms of a girl summoned me to you. I sensed a strong power inside of you and resurrected you as my pawn. She explained to him and slowly Issei began to resign to the fact that he was a devil. The crimson-haired devil then explained to him the relationship between the three factions, which was much too complicated for Issei. In the end she decided to get him motivated for the existence as a devil and her pawn by telling him that if he rose to the rank of a high-class devil, he would eventually be able to have his own harem. Once Issei was about to leave, Riaz told him one last thing. Don't tell Uzumaki Naruto about any of this though. She ordered him. Huh? Why would I tell him? Issei asked, confused as to what Naruto had to do with all of this. Naruto is the last member of this club, the one that is not a devil and not part of my peerage. He is a normal human. So I want to keep him out of the dangers of the world of devil and angels. The perverted boy nodded in understanding. Alright, but you. I won't mention a single word to him. The rest of the day went by without much fuss for Naruto. He had continued to observe Issei after school, who for some reason cycled through the city on his bike like a maniac, screaming something about becoming a harem king. And he visited the strangest people. Not like Naruto was interested in that. A few things of note were that he once more was attacked by a fallen angel, a female one, however she left pretty fast after Issei had managed to activate his Longinus gear. But other than that nothing noteworthy happened on that day. The next day had begun and Naruto was woken by the ringtone of his cell phone. He checked the display and saw that he was being called by Logos, which probably meant that it was Gonzalo who. As the number corresponding to the ID Logos belonged to the operation control room where Gonzalo spent a lot of time. Naruto accepted the call. How can I help you, Gonzalo? New orders for you. The Spaniard stated and began elaborating. On the outskirts of the town, we detected the signature of a low-class devil. Local reports have revealed that quite a few people have gone missing around that area. Since the location is pretty close, it won't interfere with your primary mission. Alright, consider it done, Gonzalo. Naruto answered confidently. I expected nothing less of you, Naruto. Gonzalo answered. Good luck. I'll be waiting for your report. Gonzalo then ended the call. Well, I guess I could test that prototype I've been sent. The blonde mused to himself. I'm excited to see how well this works. I guess I won't be able to keep an eye on Issei today then. After the boy had awakened his Longinus he seemed capable of defending himself, so Naruto guessed it wasn't all that bad that he wasn't there to keep track of Issei. He actually didn't plan to follow him around all that longer after school, 2 or 3 days at most. Darkness had blanketed the town and Naruto sat patiently in a tree able to observe the building the devil occupied. He used a burst of telekinetic energy to push the door open. He looked through the thermal scope and saw a huge quadruped form resting inside the building. On top of the devil's lower body was the upper body of a normal human. This will be pretty easy for a change. The large devil only now realized that the door had opened and Naruto took aim at the thing's head. He pulled the trigger of his rifle and for the first 5 seconds nothing happened and then a large streak of white burst from the nozzle of the weapon and punched straight through the devil's head and brain before punching through a few walls behind the devil's body. An instant kill. There was no cry of pain, the body simply fell to the side, sending a weak shock wave through the ground. One shot, one kill. Naruto muttered in confirmation and pulled out his cell phone and called Gonzalo. "Hey Gonzalo. The stray has been eliminated and tell Marcus that the test run of his weapon was a success." The blonde then slung the rifle on his back and hung up, making his way back to his apartment. If he had stayed a bit longer he would have noticed 5 people appearing just outside the building in a large red circle with various magic symbols. There are devils that betray their masters which often involves killing them. Kiba explained to his new comrade their powers run rampart and they do as they please. This devil has been luring humans here to devour them. Issei gulped audible devour. The new devil asked, "Alright Issei. Rias called for the pawn's attention. When we engage the devil I want you to pay good attention. This will teach you things you need to know about devil combat." The group of 5 entered the building and were surprised that the stray didn't reveal itself, thinking a human had entered its domain. Ara. I think I have found our target, but you." Akeno commented grimly, it seems someone was faster in taking care of it. She gestured to the devil's corpse. The hole in its head leaking fresh blood on the ground. It's pretty fresh too. Kiba analyzed, maybe 10 minutes or so at most. "What does this mean?" Issei asked. Rias took a look at the wound on the devil's head. The wound was definitely caused by light. But it's far too small and clean to be something inflicted by an angel or fallen angel. "What about an exorcist, but you?" Akeno suggested. This would be possible with an exorcist gun, wouldn't it? It probably would. Rias agreed at first, but look at the way of the hole. It's a straight line. With how big this devil was, an exorcist would have shot from her chin up through the roof of her head at best. To achieve this kind wound the marksman would have to have shot from an elevated position, like outside in the trees. And exorcist guns don't have that kind of range. Exorcist guns tended to be used at a maximum range of 5 to 10 meters, so as to not be too draining on the exorcist. The crimson-haired beauty then noticed the hole in the wall behind the devil, and they especially don't have enough power to penetrate the devil and this stone wall. "What are we dealing with here?" the blonde-haired Bishounen asked. "I don't know, Kiba." Rias admitted and bit down on her thumb. "First that fire-water combination used in the fight against the fallen angel yesterday, and now this. If I had found the same Mo as yesterday I would have said it was one and the same person." Rias thought, but now I will have to assume that there are multiple people who can deal with low-class devils and fallen angels. So not only were there unknown people messing around in here area, but to make matters worse, she had to give Issei an explanation on the evil P system. He had not understood the first explanation she had given him, so she thought it wise to elaborate what she was explaining by having it shown to him firsthand. The fact that she got rid of a stray devil on her territory was an added bonus. "Alright, let's get back to the club room." Rias ordered and gathered her 4 comrades around her and teleported them back to the club room. However, the mystery would resolve itself for Rias the next evening. On the next evening Naruto decided to keep watch on Issei for the last time. The blonde followed the Longinus user to a rather neat-looking house. He's visiting rather strange people these last few days. Naruto thought and shrugged, well, that's no concern of mine. However, this time he had a strange feeling. Something wasn't right in that house. The superhuman's gaze remained fixed on the building as Issei walked inside by himself. Nobody would just leave their door open like that. Naruto moved closer to the house and now he could smell something metallic in the air. Now I definitely know that something is wrong. Naruto rushed into the house. It could be a fallen angel once again. He heard 2 sharp cries of pain that belonged to Issei, and he saw a young white-haired boy, light sword raised in his right hand to decapitate Issei. In the left was an exorcist gun. The boy was dressed in clerical clothing and a small silver cross hung from his neck. Just as the exorcist was about to behead Issei, Naruto kicked him in the back, sending him careening into a nearby shelf. "Naruto-san," Issei exclaimed in surprise, "what are you doing here? I could be asking you the same." Naruto replied and pulled the boy to his feet, noting the injuries on his body. A shot through his knee and a slash across his back. "We have time enough to discuss that later, you should be getting out of here. Now." Naruto ordered Issei. "I can't leave you alone against him," Issei argued, "leaving the because you will die out at the end." "Hiya." A new voice shrieked, and Naruto now noticed that a young blonde-haired nun had entered the room and was shocked at the scene before her. "Asia?" Issei called out as he apparently recognized the girl. What is this?" she stuttered out, full of fear. "Stop acting like a total beginner and start healing me, you stupid nun." The white-haired boy complained as he had pulled himself up from the floor. The blonde girl was intimidated enough by the exorcist that she complied with his order, and a green light enveloped her hands and the bruises his involuntary trip into the furniture had caused. "A sacred gear." Naruto realized if his wounds keep getting healed, this could get pretty ugly, especially if I have to take care of Issei as well. Once the boy's wounds had been healed, he looked at Naruto with an insane glint in his eyes. And what are you? A little devil lover or maybe even a devil yourself? The exorcist asked him in a very creepy voice before grinning at him. Say nothing. I will kill you anyway. Isn't that great? Shut up, you maniac. Naruto retorted coldly, and a burst of psionic energy shoved the exorcist into a nearby wall. What right do you have to kill an innocent human and attack another one? I have to be careful with using my energy. If he has any more reinforcements lurking around, I can't exhaust all my energy on him. What right I have? The one I killed was a shitty devil lover, and the one you are helping right now is a devil. I'm just fulfilling my duties as a priest. Issei a devil? Naruto asked himself. It can't be. I was pretty sure that he is a human. Now be ready to die. He pointed his sword at me and his gun at Issei as the blonde-haired girl suddenly jumped in between them. Stop this, father. She begged him with teary eyes. I beg you, please forgive him. He may be a devil, but Issei is a really nice person. Boy, are you for real? The exorcist deadpanned and Naruto cursed inwardly. He had wanted to incapacitate the exorcist, but she had moved right into his line of fire. Do you even realize what you are doing? He asked, full of anger. The guy was clearly insane, and even if he wasn't a supernatural being, he was part of that world, so he couldn't let him hurt the sister Issei. Naruto could still decide if Issei really was a devil later on. Naruto started manipulating the shadows in the room, which started edging closer to the priest, ready to ensnare him. Don't even think about it. The white-haired boy warned Naruto and pulled Asia dangerously close to him, his weapons close to her vitals. I could just off her if your shadows get any closer, you know. I'm sure you two wouldn't like that at all. And Naruto was right, he couldn't risk Asia's life like that. So he pulled his shadows back, which Issei noticed. How is he doing this? He asked himself, but decided to curse at the exorcist. Let her go, you asshole. But in his current state, it was more of an act of desperation than anything else. Suddenly a bright red circle appeared in the air. Ara. Quite the problem we have here. Naruto heard someone say, and he could identify the owner of the voice as Akeno. Exorcist. The emotionless voice of Kaneko followed. We came to help, Issei. Kiba stated, having a sword drawn. Ah. The exorcist had a look of orgasmic bliss on his face. The whole devil organization appears. So many targets to choose from. Which should I kill first? He asked himself, one of the shitty devils or the shitty devil lover. Why don't I take that choice off your hands? A final voice, which Naruto noted belonged to Ria's, asked darkly. Devil lover? She thought, confused, and now noticed Naruto's presence in the room. What are you doing here, Naruto-kun? Making sure that guy doesn't kill anyone else. What else? Naruto asked sarcastically as he glared at the exorcist. Rias was about to open her mouth when Naruto interrupted her. I know what you meant, but we have enough time for that after this. Apparently my suspicions were right, and the occult research club members are all devils. Rias then turned to say, I'm sorry we came so late, but I noticed so late because there was a barrier around this place. The barrier you were supposed to keep up, you shitty nun. The exorcist spat angrily and then dragged his tongue over Asia's cheek. I guess I will have to punish you later for that. The brown-haired boy growled in anger. No, you won't. Despite his wounds, he was about to throw himself at the exorcist when a strange portal appeared over the exorcist's head. Fallen angel. Kaneko stated. But you? Akeno asked, waiting for orders. Rias didn't want to involve her peerage in an open conflict with some fallen angels, with Issei being an absolute newbie when it came to being a devil and fighting, especially with him wounded like that. It was a bad idea to fight. Our first priority is getting Issei to safety. Rias commanded her peerage. Kaneko, take care of Issei. The white-haired girl picked the wounded devil up and a large red circle appeared around the five of them. But we can't leave Asia here. Issei tried to argue. That's impossible, only those of my peerage can use this teleportation circle. Rias explained, robbing Issei of his hope of rescuing Asia from Freed. Naruto guessed they were likely going to teleport to the occult research club's club room. Only you are left, devil lover. The exorcist stated with a grin, and Naruto knew that if he had to face the boy and one, possibly more fallen angels, he would die, and that would serve no one. So as much as it pained him, he too had to leave the girl behind, but he swore to do something about it as soon as he could. This time you win. Naruto admitted, even if he didn't like it, and melded into the shadows, transporting himself away, leaving the despairing blonde nun behind. Following this small skirmish, Naruto made his way to the club room where he was already expected. Issei's wounds had mostly been taken care of already. Naruto sat down on one of the couches, Rias on the opposite of him, so that she faced him directly. A pair of glasses framing her face. To her side was Akeno, Kaneko sat in one of the chairs, and Kiba was standing ready for anything. Now please answer honestly, Naruto-kun. Who, or rather what are you? Rias demanded to know. You aren't a devil, angel, fallen angel or any type of yokai. You are a normal human, no magic potential, no sacred gear, nothing. And yet you managed to keep that exorcist off of Issei from what he told us. And you were likely the one who took care of that stray devil yesterday and who protected Issei from the fallen angel 3 days ago, right? Naruto nodded. You are right, that was me both times. And you are also right, I am a human that is neither a mage and neither a sacred gear user. Then what are you? I am humanity's protector against supernatural threats. The blonde explained. I have undergone rigorous training and body-enhancing processes to elevate me far above the level any normal human could ever achieve. But you clearly use powers that are close to magic, but yet isn't magic. What about that? Clearly that's not anything a normal human is capable of. And Naruto hesitated. I am actually not sure of myself. All I know is that they are the result of a mutation. What is your purpose here? You lied about your parents dying in an accident. Kiba inquired, determined to find out the truth when he realized that he spoke out of turn. I'm sorry, but you. He apologized. It's alright, Kiba. She forgave him, where another devil might have punished him. Well, that was no lie depending on how you look at it. Naruto sighed as he remembered their deaths and retold the story in a solemn voice. My father was killed by a stray devil that had sought refuge in our house after being wounded by a fallen angel. The fallen angel had caught up to the devil a little after my father had died and killed the stray. The angel then demanded that my mother give him her body as a payment, but she resisted and was killed by him for that. There was no one that would believe me when I told them what really happened that night. That's horrible. Issei exclaimed. I'm sorry about that. Riaz apologized, knowing that this had been a very unfortunate turn of events. The superhuman shook his head. Don't be. It's nothing you could have done about it. So what are you here for then? Revenge against devils and angels? The crimson-haired devil asked. No, that is not my goal. I am the product of Logos, the international organization tasked to deal with everything supernatural. We have complete ambassadorial responsibilities in representing humanity as well as defensive ones. After we determined that this was the largest gathering of devil energies, I was to discover the identities of the devils hiding here as well as their motives. If you were deemed a threat to humanity, I would have full authority to eliminate you in any way possible. Kiba was about to draw his sword, but Riaz stopped him. But quite frankly, you do not seem like you have any malicious intent. However, I would still like to set up a meeting for tomorrow with your race's leader or leaders. Well, I suppose I could arrange something with my brother. Riaz thought about it. Her brother? Issei asked, confused. Her brother, Surzicha-sama, is one of the 4 leaders of the underworld. Akeno explained for the pawn. That would be great. Naruto stated and stood up. I would love to stay and chat some more, but since you need to contact your brother and I need to inform my superiors as well, we best take care of that now. As the blonde stood in the doorframe, he turned around a last time. By the way, the glasses look pretty cute on you, Riaz-chan. He complimented the red-haired beauty, leaving her blushing as he left the building. She couldn't be falling for a human now, could she? However, Riaz wasn't so sure about that anymore. All that could still be heard was Akeno's amused Ara. Naruto never thought that after so little time passing, he would have already found out the identity of the devils that attended Kuo-Gakuen and arranged a meeting with their leader. It was a fortunate turn of events that the leader is Riaz's brother. Naruto thought as he unlocked the door to his apartment and pulled out his cell phone to call Victor. He picked out the scientist's number from his phone's address book and pressed the call button. Hello, Naruto. Nice timing you got there. I was just about to call you. The Russian replied in appreciation. What did you want to call me about? Naruto asked before reminding himself why he called in the first place. Never mind that right now. I have some big news, so it would be great if you could inform the higher-ups after we are done talking. That sounds serious. What did you find out? Victor inquired. I discovered the identity of the devils here at the school, or at least most of them. There could be more at Kuo-Gakuen after all. The scan only revealed there to be a large amount, but not how many. That's incredible. The biochemist exclaimed enthusiastically. Naruto grinned, although Victor couldn't see that, and that's not all. I already arranged a meeting with their leaders as well. Wow. Was all the Russian said at first. That's incredible. So how did that happen? Well, you know that Issei guy that was attacked by a fallen angel a few days ago and supposedly killed? The blonde asked. Yeah, you were pretty down about it. Victor said, remembering the conversation he had with Naruto that day. Turns out the guy somehow survived and was turned into a devil. The blonde began but was interrupted by Victor. Wait, turned into a devil? How did that happen? Said scientist demanded to know, as such a piece of information could be invaluable. Oh, Naruto said and released an embarrassed laugh. Come to think of it, I actually forgot to ask about that one with all that happened. The founder of Logos chuckled in amusement. I guess even a superhuman like you can get sidetracked. That is comforting to know. Yeah, laugh at me will you? The blonde responded in mock anger. I'm sorry, please continue with your story. Victor fake begged him. Alright, but just because I'm such a nice person. The two shared a quick laugh anyway. I tailed him after I found out that he was somehow still alive, at first to confirm he wasn't a doppelganger of some kind, and after that to make sure he wasn't killed by some fallen angel seeking to finish the job started. So after a few days of surveillance I decided to tail him for the last time today, and apparently he was on an errand for Riaz. Wait, Riaz Gremory, that red-haired girl you said was really beautiful, and the president of the Occult Research Club. Yes, the very same. Apparently I was right and all the members of the Occult Research Club are devils, well except me that is. In any case the client got killed by an insane exorcist and was about to kill Issei as well. Since I had already failed the first time, I didn't want to do so the second time around and protected him. Moments later Riaz and her peerage, which is what a high-class devil calls their underlings, appeared to protect Issei. The blonde retold his story. So it pretty much was a fluke that you discovered them? Victor deadpanned with slight amusement in his voice. Luck is an important attribute too, especially if you go after many of those role-playing games you are so fond of. Naruto returned the jab at him. Hey, all this research can get pretty stressful, and they really take the edge of things. The scientist retorted, you better get back to telling your story, boy. Yes. So Riaz retrieved Issei and retreated when some fallen angels were about to appear. Since fighting the exorcist and an unknown quantity of fallen angels would be stupid, I retreated as well. Naruto explained, in the aftermath of this skirmish we both came clean about things, and it turns out Riaz's brother is the leader I am going to meet tomorrow. I really can't believe the luck you are having. Victor muttered in shock, the hot girl you met and more or less befriended is a devil and had ties to the underworld leadership. Most people wouldn't have that much luck in 100 years. He stated, oh, and before I forget it, what I wanted to tell you is that the UN is almost done furnishing a new Logos Operations Center in Japan. In fact, it's going to be in your city so that we can better support you. That's great. Naruto replied excitedly, that's going to save us all these troublesome phone calls. Yeah, and I can keep a better eye on your developing powers, which was another thing I wanted to mention to you. I can say with almost 90% accuracy that all your children will inherit both your enhanced physical attributes and your telekinetic powers. Naruto took the information and that is good to know, he said, not knowing how to reply to that information. I will inform the guys upstairs now and leave you to get some rest. Victor stated, good night Naruto. Good night Victor. The two mutually ended the call there and Naruto decided to get some shut-eye for the next day. The next day Naruto actually woke up completely normal. He showered, brushed his teeth and got dressed before eating his breakfast. However, while he was having his breakfast the blonde was interrupted by someone knocking on his door. Who could it be this early in the morning? Especially someone who wouldn't simply ring the doorbell. Naruto asked himself and walked to his door, opening it. Outside of his apartment stood a tall male in an all-black suit, black shades and black hair. Operative Naruto. He stated and pulled out an envelope. The various representatives regret that they can't attend such a momentous occasion, but they trust you to do well with the responsibilities vested in you as humanity's representative. Inside of this envelope you will find the points the UN formulated last night for you to discuss when meeting with the representative of the devils. You shall open this envelope only after this meeting has begun. Alright. Naruto took the envelope from the large man who nodded in appreciation. Remember, this meeting never happened. After those words left the man's mouth he left Naruto. Said man then entered his all-black car. Seriously, is there any more stereotypical agent behavior? The blonde thought to himself, a small trickle of sweat forming at the back of his head. Later this day Naruto entered the club room of the Occult Research Club where Riaz was already waiting for him. At her side stood a beautiful woman that appeared to be in her early 20s. She had silver hair and matching eyes. Her hair, which flowed all the way down to her back, featured a long braid on each side with small blue bows at the ends, while the rest was let down, ending in twin braids. She was wearing a blue and white French-made outfit with long sleeves and a white-made headband over her head, while on her lips was red lipstick. Hello, Naruto-kun. Riaz greeted him with a smile on her lips. Hey, Riaz-chan. He returned her greeting in kind. Who is the woman beside you? It is nice to meet you, Uzumaki Naruto-san. The woman greeted the young superhuman. My name is Graphia Lucifuge. I am Lord Surzich's wife and shall accompany you to him. It is nice to meet you as well, Graphia-san. Naruto responded before asking her, what about Riaz, will she come too? No, the Lord sister will remain here. Graphia explained curtly, not only does she have her peerage to take care of, but this meeting will remain between the representatives of both races. That means after bringing you to Surzich's Sama, I too will not be present. A small magic circle appeared in front of them and Graphia gestured towards it. Please step inside the teleportation circle. It will bring us directly to the appointed meeting place in Lilith, the capital of Surzich's Sama's territory. Naruto did as he was told and entered the circle. Graphia followed after him. In the instant that they both stood inside of the circle, a strange feeling of moving enveloped Naruto. It was difficult to describe. He felt light as a feather, feeling as if he floated higher and higher, only to suddenly be pulled down again on the ground. The two devils now stood in a small room with two chairs and a table in between them. The floor was covered in red carpet and matching red drapes covered the window that revealed a purple sky outside while giving view to the city beyond the building he was in. "Please have a seat, Uzumaki-san." She pointed towards the chair that faced the window. "I will inform Surziches-sama that you have arrived." Naruto sat down in the chair, which was surprisingly comfortable, and waited for the Lord of Devils to enter the room. Inside his mind Naruto went over countless possibilities how the meeting could go. Just then the door opened and a young man with long red hair, the same shade as Ria's and the same blue-green colored eyes, entered the room. The blonde raised from his seat and walked towards the devil as the door closed behind him. Said devil was clothed in an ornate white clothes, and as Naruto got closer, he could feel the powerful aura that surrounded the man, and the blonde knew that he commanded respect. Naruto held out his hand in greeting. "It is nice to be able to meet you, Lucifer-san," he said with all the politeness that he could. The red-haired devil examined Naruto with an impassive face. "You are probably one of the very few if not the first human to be here in the underworld with permission," he stated as a matter of fact and didn't seem all that intent on returning the greeting, which filled Naruto with nervousness, thinking that he somehow had offended the devil's leader. However, Surziches then smiled at him. "It is nice to meet you as well, Naruto. Rias has told me quite a bit about you," he admitted and shook the blonde's hand. "And just call me Surziches, I am not a stickler for all that overly polite nonsense." "Alright, then Surziches." Naruto responded, a bit uncertain at the devil's laid-back attitude. "You are pretty relaxed for someone of your position. The people I know with a comparable one are much stiffer. They just don't know how to have fun." The super devil replied in an upbeat voice. "Why don't we sit down now?" "Yes, that would be better," Naruto answered, and the two sat down. "I still can't believe that the leader of devils is like this," the blonde thought in shocked. "I am here today representing the four satans of the underworld. We are the devil's leaders, and even though the other three couldn't attend, I assure you I have been granted the right to make most decisions, as possible, in their absence." Lucifer stated, "Since you called for this meeting, it would be best for you to explain what you are promising yourself from this." Naruto pulled the envelope out of his pocket and began reading it. "It is our great pleasure that we, the United Nations, have established contact with the devil's, race. Although we regret that no representative of any our nations could attend this meeting of great importance, we assure you that Uzumaki Naruto, who is part of Logos, the international organization dealing with the supernatural, acts completely in our interest and represents the will of a united human race. We humans have now arrived at a crossroad to a new future, and we believe that it would be in both humanity's and devil's interest to form a mutual beneficial alliance with each other. The points of this alliance shall be the following. Point 1. An exchange of information. Humanity will share the knowledge they gained in the fields of technology in exchange for the devil's knowledge on magic." Naruto looked up from the text and waited for Surzich's response. The redhead nodded in response. "I think such a thing could be arranged. I doubt I could get approval to share the specifics about the clan's own style of magic, but it would be no problem to share general knowledge of magic." Naruto then continued. Point 2. In the case that either party is involved in a battle against the supernatural or those involved with it, the other party agrees to support the other signatory as needed. Surziches frowned. "I don't think the other satans or many devils would agree to such a thing, however you can count on the help of the Grimoire should need arise." The next few points just concerned themselves with human-devil conduct. What to do in case a stray devil starts killing humans, what if a devil catches, and some other minor human-devil relationship stuff. Then followed the point that made Naruto choke on his spit, making the blonde cough erratically. "Are you alright, Naruto?" Surziches asked, concerned for the blonde's well-being. The superhuman calmed down, cleared his throat and started reading. Point number 9. Naruto took a deep breath as he caught himself stuttering the words, much to Surzich's confusion, as a sign of goodwill, to show an acceptance of the alliance on both parts, and to strengthen the human-to-devil relationship. The United Nations demand that the representative of humanity, Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, and the sister of Lord Surzich's Lucifer, Rias Grimoire, will be betrothed to each other. Naruto couldn't believe it. He was forced to marry Rias. Not that he had anything against her. She was one of the most beautiful women he had ever laid his eyes on. In fact, he would be happy to marry her, but he didn't want to have her forced into it. She was much too nice for that. To take his mind of things, he didn't wait for Surziches to respond to that stipulation and continued to read the last part. "Although we realize that this is a lot to ask for at this point in time, and as new as our relationship is, we are open to negotiations on the points 3 to 8, however we feel that the points 1, 2 and 9 are imperative for a good collaboration between our races and are therefore non-negotiable. Representative Uzumaki may amend any part of this contract bar the points named. Signed, the United Nations." Surziches drummed his fingers on the table and looked with a calculating gaze at Naruto. "Did you know about that last part?" Surziches asked, devoid of his previously jovial tone, making the human slightly nervous. Naruto hoped that he had not somehow incurred the devil's wrath. "No, not at all." Naruto replied truthfully, I had not idea about that, I would never force Riaz into marrying me if she didn't want to. I believe you and I think you would care well for her, but there are many problems with this demand. Surziches stated, not only is Riaz already engaged, but a high-class pureblood devil marrying a human. That would create a huge outcry in the underworld. The thinning of our devil blood was the whole reason for the creation of the evil P system in the first place. Evil P system? The blonde asked confused. I thought Riaz might have explained that one to you. Surziches commented in surprise, but explained it to Naruto nonetheless. After the Great War, the three factions had lost a great deal of their forces. We, that is the devils, had lost many of the 72 pillars in the war, and many that were not destroyed had to resort to having children with non-devils to stay alive, resulting in them losing their standing. In response, the evil P system was created. Now we have the abilities to resurrect any non-devil as a devil with certain special abilities tied to the 16 pieces of a chessboard. The king is head of the peerage. The queen is the most powerful fighter, combining the strengths of all other pieces, knights with superb agility and speed, rooks with high offense and defense, bishops with enhanced magic capabilities and pawns, with the ability to promote in enemy territory. That explains how Issei is alive despite having died. Naruto realized and thought that the system sounded pretty convenient for what it did. Anyway. Truth be told, I don't like Riser Phoenix, Ria's current betrothed, all that much, but I don't think there is any way in that moment the proverbial light bulb appeared over Surzich's head. Yes, that might just be a possibility. Naruto looked confused and asked what might be. Perhaps there is a way for the engagement between Riser and Riaz to be called off. You would just have to challenge Riser to a fight with the stake being Ria's engagement. To Naruto it sounded awfully archaic, but it seems such was the way of the underworld, but would he even accept such a duel? He probably will. He is arrogant enough to think most people to be beneath him, but is just as prideful to not let an insult slide, and if he gets challenged by a human he doesn't want to lose face by refusing the challenge of someone that, in his mind, he should quash like a bug. Surziches explained and nodded in approval of the plan. Yes, I am very certain that it will work like that. He then stared at Naruto and said, the only thing I ask for my help in this that you will take good care of my precious Riaz Tan for this. Is this guy really a leader of the devils? Naruto thought, still uncertain that such a flippant person could really hold so much power. I swear by my life that I will take care of Riaz to the best of my ability. In the end, after making some adjustments to the contract, both placed their signatures under the contract and Naruto put it back into his pocket. Great. The red-haired Satan was clearly satisfied by the way this meeting had went. I will now inform Riser of your challenge and tell you his answer as soon as possible. Graphia will accompany you back to the human world. The silver-haired wife of the Satan entered the room and created the teleportation circle back to the occult research clubroom. Back in the human world, the members of said club were already waiting for his return. How did it go? What did you talk about? Riaz inquired, full of curiosity since she had made this meeting possible in the first place and had not been allowed to attend. Well, you know, just the standard stuff. Naruto replied, exchange of information, support in times of need, and his voice lowered to barely above a whisper, an engagement between me and you. Riaz blinked in surprise, tilting her head in confusion. I don't think I heard you correctly. I swear you said we were to be engaged. We arranged an alliance between the world of humans and the underworld, and as a token of good faith we are to be engaged. The blonde said once again, but this time out loud. But I'm already engaged. Riaz muttered, shocked by this development. I know your brother explained as much to me. I will therefore challenge Riser Phoenix over the engagement to you, to a duel. Naruto elaborated. Are you stupid? Riser is a high-class devil, even I wouldn't be so foolish as to challenge the immortal Phoenix to a fight without proper preparation, and I am a high-class devil as well. Riaz scolded Naruto, but more out of concern than anger, and you are just a really strong human. Riser will kill you. And all that just for a stupid alliance. Riaz couldn't believe it. She had thought better of Naruto. To put his life on the line for something trivial like this. I know that it will be nigh impossible as I am now to beat him, but I'll manage somehow. He replied with a grim smile, I just wanted to tell you that even if I win, you don't necessarily have to marry me. Surziches told me that you are very unhappy about being forced to marry Riser, so I doubt you will be any more happy about being forced to marry me. Riaz shook her head. Here was perhaps one of the few men that considered her feelings. My problem with the engagement is that I want to marry someone that I can love. She walked closer to Naruto, and she didn't think she could fool herself any longer, and I think I could come to love you, Naruto-kun. She leaned close and gave him a short kiss on his cheek. Said blonde was blushing as he stood there unmoving in shock. Ara. Akeno commented with a laugh, how unfair of you, but you. Snagging Naruto-kun all for yourself. Biba laughed in amusement as well, and Kaneko kept silent while eating some sweets, undisturbed by the scene. Issei, who had in the meantime stormed into the clubroom, screamed in outrage, what wise but you kissing Naruto-san. Inwardly however he cursed the blonde, that lucky bastard. Issei then remembered why he had come here that fast but you. He cried out, I need your help. Yu Rainer has taken Asia and we need to rescue her. Riaz turned around and looked at her pawn and walked towards him. How many times must I tell you? No means no, Issei. She slapped Issei. Forget the girl. You are a devil of the Grimory clan now. You can't go around fraternizing with servants of the church. Then release me from your clan. Issei demanded in anger at being refused help. I will just make it on my own. You know there's no way you can. Riaz replied calmly and Akeno walked behind her whispering something into her ear and Aaron just came up. Akeno and I will be out for a while. King and Queen then teleported away. Are you going then despite Butchu's orders? Kiba asked the sacred gear wielder. Yeah, just try to stop me. Issei replied to deter the knight. You are going to get killed. The swordsman stated calmly. I know, but even if it is going to cost me my life I will rescue Asia. The newest member of Ria's peerage answered determined. A good answer. Naruto said, finally recovering from his stupor and placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. I planned on going myself, but the more we are the higher our chance of succeeding is. You are being too reckless. Even with you two, Kiba reminded them. Shut up pretty boy, Issei shouted at the blonde not turning around. The ones present heard Kiba calling forth his sword. That is why I am coming with you. Me too. Kaneko stated having stood up from the couch she had sat on. Well, time for the Fantastic Four to roll out then. Naruto stated and pumped his fist into the air. Don't call us that. Issei complained. If you are going to call us by some kind of name, take a good one like Z Warriors. Now don't sweat the small stuff. Naruto blew the sacred gear user off. The four had made the way to the town's church, the base of operation for the fallen angels. Let's go. Issei roared and charged towards the entrance of the church, but Naruto had already grabbed the boy by the scruff of his neck and pulled him back. Hey, let me go, we have no time to waste. That's why he shouldn't be a team leader, Naruto muttered under his breath and shook his head. You know they are likely expecting you, right? So they could have some sort of trap prepared behind that door. So let me take of that first, okay? After that you can charge merrily through the front entrance when it is clear, alright. Alright, Issei answered reluctantly, and Kiba couldn't hide his amusement at his fellow devil's plight. This will likely take a bit out of me, but whatever it takes, I guess, the blonde thought and concentrated on a tree to their side, and slowly it rose out of the ground, uprooting before Naruto chucked a large object at the entrance to the church. The tree tore the wooden doors down, and one could hear a loud cry, are you for real? Throwing trees. Issei and Kiba sweat dropped as Naruto nodded in satisfaction. All clear now. He said and turned to Kiba. Hey, got another sword. He seriously needed a weapon since he just had limited himself by using his powers. The blonde nodded and using his sacred gear created another holy eraser, a two-handed sword with a golden handle, and a pitch black blade. This blade will absorb holy energy. Kiba informed his comrade. Naruto took the sword in one hand and gave it a few practice swings. Thanks, Kiba. No problem. Now while you take the front entrance, I will see if I can get in from the back. Meanwhile, Riaz and Akeno were about to confront Middled, Kalwarner and Donaseek. However, Donaseek sensed a familiar presence and grinned. Bloodthirsty, my prey has returned. He took off, leaving his two fallen angel companions alone. Boy, where are you disappearing off to, old man? Middled asked angrily. Ara. It seems your friend ran with his tail between his legs. Akeno taunted the two remaining fallen angels. DCH, don't worry. Even with just me and Kalwarner we can beat you. The blonde fallen angel replied confidently, and suddenly a barrier sprung up. So that's what you plan to keep us inside of this barrier, but this means you are trapped inside of here too. Middle called a light spear forth and threw it at her two opponents, with Kalwarner following suit. On the other side of the church, Naruto looked around now, whereas this entrance seemed used to himself, and jumped back on reflex as a spear of light impaled into the ground in front of him before dissipating. I'm glad that didn't kill you. A familiar voice said, full of anticipation, make me enjoy this fight, my prey. You again, Naruto realized as he stared at the hat-wearing fallen angel. How are your burn wounds holding up? He asked with a grin. Having a sister that can heal any wound does come in handy when dealing with injuries, wouldn't you say? Donaseek asked rhetorically. Enough of this chit-chat and let us fight to the death. He readied a spear in each of his hands and descended towards Naruto, thrusting the holy weapons towards the superhuman. Naruto readied himself, holding his sword in both hands, the tip pointing towards the ground, dodged to the left and swung the sword upwards at his charging enemy's midriff. Donaseek reacted quickly and did a mid-air roll to the side and threw one of his spears at Naruto, who batted it aside. Donaseek reformed a new light spear in his right hand. The fallen angel's arms blurred as he thrust the pointy weapons with high speed at Naruto. Again and again the spears surged forward, intent on impaling the young blonde to satisfy the fallen angel's bloodlust. However, Naruto managed to parry every thrust with his weapon. If Kiba hadn't given me a weapon, I would probably be toast by now. He realized, but it was still pretty difficult to hit a flying target with a close-range weapon. Each time Naruto got in range to strike at his winged opponent, said person would dodge easily, having the high ground advantage. When this is over I really need to work on training my powers. Then I could start chucking things at him from a distance. The blonde as he kept parrying the light weapons. Since there was no prolonged contact between the weapons it took a while, but now the superhuman had noticed that the holy eraser had eroded the substance of the light spears. Their color was faded and they were nearly see-through. Naruto took this as his cue to launch an attack, while Donaseek had yet to realize that his weapons were useless. The blonde leapt high into the air, his sword raised over his head as he swung it down at the fallen angel. Donaseek grinned in delight. The human made a risky move. If the attack connected he was sure to be feeling the effects, but this time he would block the boy's attack for a change. If he simply dodged the blonde could still recover in mid-air, but if he parried and totally threw him off balance, he could impale him as he landed on his back. As the black blade came down he crossed his two weapons in front of him, and in that moment his grin faded as he noticed the faded color of his spears. An anti-holy demonic blade. Donaseek realized, how could I miss this? At the very last second he dodged backwards, but the swing still connected, but instead of having his gut spilling from his body, the attack had left him with a deep cut from which his red blood was dripping slowly on the ground. Donaseek grunted in pain. Well done, you got me. The black-haired fallen angel admitted and flew higher up. I would have preferred to finish you off in close combat for the ultimate satisfaction, but it seems I can't afford that now. The gash on his body left a tingling feeling behind, the effects of a holy being cut by a demonic blade. If he stays up there I can't get to him. The blonde cursed and saw the fallen angel ready two more spears which he promptly threw at Naruto. The blonde blocked them both and instantly had to face the second pair flying at him. More and more weapons of light began flying through the air and at an increasingly faster pace. It became harder and harder to dodge and parry them as some of the impaled weapons took their time to dissipate back into their elemental state. This is getting annoying. The blonde thought, he can't touch me and I can't touch him. He dodged many more spears coming towards him. I need to do something about that. Suddenly in the distance a large red pillar of energy rose into the sky areas, which distracted Naruto. Naruto suddenly felt a sharp pain in his leg and a large glowing spear had impaled itself straight through his leg, greatly impairing his movement. He blocked the second spear flying towards him, but Naruto doubted he would be able to keep from getting impaled much longer now. What's up, boy? Not throwing any fireballs at me today? Where is your fire and water magic? Donaseek taunted him and took his sweet time forming a new pair of spears. Finally you will die, and I will relish in the enjoyment of this victory. Wait, Naruto realized how he still had a chance and grinned a throw. That is the key here. He should have just enough energy left for that. He gripped the holy eraser with both hands and pulled his arms behind his back until the blade nearly touched him. And with a mighty overhead throw he chucked the sword at the fallen angel. Oh. Donaseek raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the blonde's plan, but dodged the sword rather easily. Maybe if I had been distracted, you could have hit me with that. But your last effort of desperation shall remain futile. Donaseek drew his right arm back ready to throw the first spear. Now, die. The fallen angel screamed and suddenly felt a sharp pain go through his upper body as he saw the black sword jutting out of him. The fallen angel's weapons disappeared as slowly the strength left him, his holy energies being sapped from him by the weapon. How? He asked in confusion, blood dripping out of his mouth and from the wound on his upper body. The fallen angel was sure he had dodged the thrown blade. There was no way it could have hit him. Because I didn't use fire and water magic. Naruto explained and pulled himself from the ground. Now that the spear that was holding him was gone, you assumed the sword couldn't hit you after you had dodged, but I manipulated its trajectory to have it turn around and impale you from behind since you were so preoccupied with drawing out my final moments. Ha 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 ha. Donaseek let out a final laugh. Well done, human. He praised him as the life left the fallen angel's body. He pulled the bloody sword from the angel's corpse. This is a bloody useful thing. Naruto commented to himself. He would have to buy Kiba a drink or something for this. Well, I better keep it. Suddenly the sword inside of his hand shattered into tiny pieces and Naruto sighed. I guess it was too good to be true. Naruto grimaced in pain as he dragged himself into the church, walking with a gaping hole inside. Your leg isn't easy. He mused. Inside the church he saw Arias, Akeno, Kiba, Kaneko, Issei and Asia all alive and well. What an excellent happy end. Naruto declared as he joined the 6 others. You're injured, Naruto-kun. Rias exclaimed in concern and rushed to his side. Don't worry about it, it is just a small wound. Let me heal that for you, Naruto-san. Asia said and held her glowing hands over the wound on his leg. It's the least I can do for helping me. The wound soon began to close up, leaving a simple hole in his pants. Don't mention it, Asia-chan. The blonde replied with a smile on his lips. It is after all my responsibility to keep humans safe. Akeno tried to stifle her laughing, but a giggle escaped her nonetheless. The others however did not so well. What did I miss? He seriously felt out of the loop right now, and Asia looked at the ground to hide her embarrassment. But you turned Asia into a devil. Issei explained to the blonde who looked at his fellow blonde person. What? You too, Naruto exclaimed in surprise and turned to Rias, asking her in a voice of fake annoyance, how many more humans do you plan to turn into devils? Electing a laugh from everyone. After they had all calmed down, Naruto said, I sure could go for some food right now. Cue his stomach grumbling, who's with me? My treat. Well, more like the UN's, but that was beside the point. And the 6 devils agreed to accompany him for some food. Once he was back home late at night, he made a call to Logos. Victor was the one to answer the call. Hello, Naruto. How did the meeting go? Pretty well, Victor, pretty well. He accepted most conditions and signed the contract after we made some on-the-spot adjustments to it. That's incredible. Victor exclaimed in elation, I bet it wasn't easy meeting one of the strongest devils. It must have been incredible tense. Naruto laughed, actually it wasn't. You wouldn't believe what a goof that Surzich's guy is. From the way he acts you wouldn't believe that he was one of the strongest devils and a leader in the underworld. I guess these devils really aren't what we expect them to be. That's true, but hey, you got good news for the guys upstairs. That's bound to make them happy. Yeah, I guess some more funds for Logos to play with. Anyway, I'm pretty tired right now, had a really long day. I understand. Victor responded, Marcus and I will be seeing you soon. The new facility should be finalized in the next few days. That's great. Maybe I can bring the guys from the Occult Research Club over. I'm sure you can learn a lot more from living devils than from a dead one. I'm sure that would spell a breakthrough for our research. Victor said, now go get some sleep while I make the report to the guys from the UN. Undisclosed location, local time. 1:36 a.m. On top of a mountain, a black-haired youth wearing a cross between a Japanese school uniform and an ancient Chinese garb was swinging a lance in his hands. He went through intricate forms, practicing each multiple times. Without turning he spoke, what is it, Georg? A young man with black hair and spectacles, wearing a Japanese school uniform and a mage-style robe over it, stood behind the lancer. I have interesting news, Cao Cao. The boy named Georg said, and speak. Humans have formed an alliance with the devils. What do I care if some mages forged an alliance with some devils? That is nothing unusual, Georg. You awful people should know that. No, you misunderstood. The human governments have formed an alliance with the devils, using a new organization of theirs called Logos as a mediator. So what about this Logos? Any sacred gear users we could recruit for our cause? No, I'm afraid they are all normal humans. No talent for magic and no sacred gears. The lance-wielding boy seemed in deep thought. This alliance could impede our efforts of recruiting more people for our cause. I want you to send this Logos a message to know that they should stop dabbling in affairs they have nothing to do with. As you wish, Cao Cao. Who should I send? We shouldn't concern ourselves with that. They are only normal humans after all, but if you inform the Crusaders about an alliance between devils and humans, I'm sure that would suffice for them to do something about it. Georg then left Cao Cao to complete his task. A few days after the spectacular rescue of Asia from the clutches of the fallen angels, in the aftermath of this, she had been turned into a devil. Oh, the irony of a sister, a follower of God, being turned into a devil. Naruto thought with amusement as he remembered how Asia had tried to make a prayer, only to repeatedly receive a headache. The blonde-haired girl had been living with Issei since then. Naruto didn't quite trust the boy to behave himself, but he would accept it. Rias had managed to convince Issei's parents to take care of Asia, and convincing in her case meant that she used some magic to have them accepted. Naruto thought after having been told about the conversation. On another more important note, at least for Naruto, the Logos facility in the town had finally been finished. Which meant he could visit the 2 scientists whenever he wanted, and with the upcoming fight against Riser Phoenix, that would be some much needed support. He had been visited by Grafia last night, who told him that Riser had accepted the challenge. Flashback, Naruto was just about to go to bed when a bright light filled his apartment. A small teleportation circle, and with it Grafia appeared inside of his room. The blonde was half naked when the silver-haired devil had appeared, but she seemed unfazed by his attire. Good evening, Naruto-san. She greeted him coolly. Good evening, Grafia-san. He said, looked up and down at himself. I can't say I was expecting you, otherwise I would have worn something more fitting. Do not worry about it, Naruto-san. I will be gone soon. The silver-haired woman stated, I am just here to tell you of Riser's response to your challenge. How did he answer? The blonde inquired. Riser Phoenix has accepted your challenge and has given you a month to prepare for the fight, which will be held in the underworld in front of a large audience. Grafia told the blonde, if I may say so, Riser seemed quite amused by your challenge. When I informed him that you wanted to fight for Ria's hand, he replied, and I quote, a human wants to challenge me. He must be suffering from delusions if he thinks he could harm me, Riser Phoenix. Tell him he has 1 month to prepare for the fight, not that even 100 years of preparation would be enough for a human to beat me. Grafia kept silent for a while before speaking again. I know it is prudent of me to say so, but Riser is a dangerous opponent, and I don't believe that you can win, even if Surzich's Sama seems to hold you in high esteem. Naruto looked down, his expression grim. I know that it may be nigh impossible for me to come out of this fight victorious as I am right now, but I won't give up. I'll show him that he shouldn't underestimate the resourcefulness of humans, and I will give it my all. He looked back up with determination into the silver eyes of Surzich's wife, but if I win it won't be for me, but for Ria's. A small smile graced the lips of the silver-haired woman. Now I know what Surzich's Sama sees in you. She told him, for what it's worth I hope that you will win this fight. Thank you, Grafia-san. Naruto replied, a bit more confident than he really felt about the fight. No need to thank me. Now I wish you a good night while I return to the underworld. Grafia bowed slightly and disappeared in a flash. Flashback end. That is why he planned to do some heavy training in this next month, including today at the new facility, and he would be asking the Occult Research Club if they would accompany him, since both Victor and Marcus were sure to want to meet devils that were not intent on eating their face. The two scientists could probably learn some new things, and the other members of the Occult Research Club could help him train, and it would help them increase their abilities as well. So after school he visited the club room of the Occult Research Club. He entered the large building. Hello, Naruto-kun. Akeno greeted him with a sultry smile. How nice of you to visit. Is there anything I can help you with? Naruto looked around, and the only other person in the room was Kaneko, who was as usual munching on some sweets and drinking the tea Akeno had made. Where is everyone else? The blonde asked, confused at the empty building. But you will be done soon with her shower. Akeno stated, and the blonde could hear the water running in the back of the club room. This club probably have everything. He noted to himself. So what about Kiba, Issei and Asia? Where are they? Naruto wanted to know. Akeno looked at him with curiosity. Are you not here to visit Butchu? She asked him in mild surprise, to which he shook his head in response. I am here to visit her too, but I actually wanted to talk to everyone. What do you want to talk with us about? The black-haired devil asked him with interest. That's Naruto began before smirking a surprise. Ara. How mean of you, Naruto-kun. She replied in amusement, a strange glint appearing in her eyes. Do you want to be punished? A small shiver went down the blonde's spine. Why is she saying it like that? He asked himself and shook his head. No, not at all. So where are the others? Kiba has an errand to run, but he should be back soon, and Issei and Asia should be arriving pretty soon as well. He probably wants to show Asia around the school so that she knows where everything is. Well, I guess that makes sense. Naruto commented. I'll just have a seat then until everyone is here. That is good idea, Naruto-kun. Akeno said and placed a cup of her delicious tea in front of the teenage boy. Thank you. He replied, accepting the hot beverage and took a sip from it. Naruto then turned to the currently only other member of the club. And how are you today, Kaneko-chan? He asked a petite white-haired girl. Very well. She replied in her soft monotonous voice and caused Naruto to release a small sigh. You really need to liven up some more, Kaneko-chan. I always get the feeling that you don't like me if you talk like that. He complained to the white-haired devil, who shook her head only slightly. No, I like you. Your spirit is warm. She answered and looked up at him with her cute hazel eyes, and Naruto felt like patting her head. My spirit is warm, he asked in confusion. Yes. Kaneko simply replied, but he couldn't make any more sense of that than before. Kaneko was a Nekomata before she became a devil. Naruto heard Ria say in explanation. She used a simple white towel to dry her hair off. Nekomata have the ability to judge a person's aura, that's why they are a good judge of character. The redhead explained, and Naruto nodded in understanding. Soon a new person entered the room. I'm back. Kiba reported the contract was a success, but you. Well done, Kiba. Rias praised her knight. Kiba then greeted Naruto, who returned his greeting. Not much later, Asia and Issei finally arrived as well. Good day, everyone. Asia spoke with her soft voice and Issei followed suit, except that he did so much more exuberantly. So what did you want to tell us? Rias asked of the human member of the Occult Research Club. 3 things. Naruto mentioned Grafia told me Riser accepted my challenge, and my fight against Riser will take place in a month's time. I'm sorry, but who is this Riser guy? Issei asked in confusion. He is the president's betrothed. Akeno explained for the pawn. What? The brown-haired boy exclaimed in surprise, shocked that Rias was engaged. Not only that, he is the most chauvinistic, arrogant, prideful, annoying and obnoxious guy you will ever meet. Rias stated, angry having to think about him. But why is Naruto-san fighting him? Asia inquired. Because some circumstance came up that forced me to challenge him over the engagement. Naruto explained, this means that if I win, Rias doesn't have to marry Riser and will marry me instead. However, that's all only if I can win. Asia clasped her hands together, smiling happily. That's wonderful. I think you two look great together. The innocent comment caused a small blush to appear on both of their faces. Anyway, Naruto began, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to ask if you would help me prepare for the fight. Since he's given me a month to prepare, I should get a lot of training in. Issei pumped his fist into the air. If he is as bad as Butchu said he is, I will of course help you. The sacred gear user stated, full of determination. You can count on me as well. The swordsman said calmly. I'll help too if I can. Asia would lend him her support as well. Me too. The white-haired girl said with little emotion. Of course I will help my cute kohai. Akeno replied with a smile, and Riaz agreed to help him too. Thank you, everyone. He thanked them profusely, and there is one last thing I wanted to ask of you. As you know, I work for Logos and a new facility was just finished here in this town, and I would really appreciate it if you could come with me for some tests. That would really help with their research. Well, and we could use the training facilities there. Riaz seemed in thought for a moment before replying, I don't see why not. Naruto smiled at her and enveloped her in a hug. Thank you, Riaz-chan. The redhead blushed slightly. Don't mention it, Naruto-kun. Well then let's go. The blonde, followed by Issei, Asia, Kiba and Kaneko, was about to leave the club room when Riaz called Akeno, and I will catch right up with you. What did you want to talk about, Riaz? The dark-haired devil asked confusedly. I heard what you said to Naruto while I was in the bath. The crimson-haired princess stated and frowned at her queen. I want you to stop flirting with him. Ara. Is Riaz jealous? Akeno teased her king. There is no need, we could share him after all. Polygamy was well accepted in the underworld. Especially with the introduction of the evil P system and the weakened devil population, it gained increased popularity. Still, Riaz didn't feel fully comfortable about the thought of having to share Naruto. I'll let you keep thinking about this, Riaz. Akeno told her, we will stay friends regardless of your decision. Riaz and Akeno had easily caught up with a group of 5. What did you need to talk about? Naruto inquired of the two. Nothing, don't worry about it. The red-haired devil said, causing the blonde to shrug in response. So where is this building you are taking us to? Oh, it's not much further. A bit to edge of the city but still close. They soon came upon a small building with 2 stories. This is it. Naruto proclaimed. I somehow expected more from a government-funded facility. Issei commented disappointed. Are you sure this is the right one? Now don't let the exterior fool you. The blonde waved Issei's concern aside. After all, they couldn't place a skyscraper in this town now, could they? Naruto opened the door and walked inside the building, the group of devils following him. 2 suited people from the security stopped were about to spring to action and stop them when Naruto motioned for them to halt. Don't worry, they are with me. The 2 calmed down and went back to their post. The interior of the ground floor resembled the entrance hall of some kind of hotel. Not much in the way of decoration, a few flowers here and there, a carpet, a reception counter with a person behind it, and an elevator to the back of the room. Good day, Naruto. The person behind the counter greeted him. The 2 head scientists are already expecting you. Thanks for informing me, Miranda. Naruto replied and led the group into the elevator. As the elevator door closed behind them, Issei decided to ask which floor they were going to end up on. Neither. Naruto replied, the 2nd floor is just a canteen and the 3rd one a lounge. But there are no more floors to this building. Kiba noted. That's what you think. Naruto replied with a smirk, pressed and held the button you would normally push if the elevator was stuck. Suddenly the elevator started moving downstairs and soon it stopped. The door opened and revealed a huge hallway. To the sides were multiple rooms filled with people. One room held a multitude of persons in front of computers entering command strings at a rapid pace. On the opposite side of that room, 3 persons each holding a rifle aimed at the targets to the back of their room before firing their weapons with varying results. Each took a clipboard and noted their result on it before repeating it. I've been expecting you, Naruto. A black-haired man in a lab coat stated and gave the blonde a pat on the back in greeting. Good to see you again. He noted the superhumans company. Are these the devils? Nice to see you again as well, Victor. Naruto returned the scientist's greeting and nodded. Yeah, these are my friends. Riaz Gremory. He gestured to the beautiful red-haired woman Himejima Akeno. Then to the black-haired girl to her side Yudo Kiba. The blonde-haired Bishounen inclined his head. Taoju Kaneko. The white-haired girl gave him a blank stare. Haidu Issei. The brown-haired boy who seemed overly excited the way he was looking at everything in Asia Argento. The blonde-haired girl waved shyly at him. Guys, this is Viktor Kasyanov, lead biochemist among other things and co-founder of Logos, and the person responsible for making me into who I am today. Each of the devils gave their own greeting to the scientist. It's nice to meet you as well. The black-haired man replied politely, we are incredibly grateful that you are willing to help us. Well then, follow me. Victor led them into his personal laboratory with various instruments you would find in a doctor's office, a few computers, high-tech microscopes, and whatever else money could buy for him. Actually, I just wanted to do a full body checkup to see if there are any side effects from the changes so far, but since all your friends are here as well, I'll have some more to do, so I'll just be taking some blood from everyone first. Victor chuckled. Not that I mind having more to do, considering this is the first time I can examine living devils. What do you mean living devils, Kasyanov-san? Asia asked the Russian scientist. I only got to dissect a stray devil that Naruto here killed for his first mission. And the scientists grumbled in discontent, but the overall insight I could get were minimal. The man took a syringe, disinfected the needle and put it in position. Now hold still. He ordered and poked the needle through Naruto's skin into a vein until the syringe was completely filled with the boy's red blood. Perfect. Now the next please. Ikeno volunteered first to have a blood sample taken. Followed by Rias, Kiba, Issei, Kaneko and finally Asia. Suddenly a brown-haired person barged into the room. Hey Vic, I heard Naruto was back and he brought company. He then noticed the group in the room. Well, nice to meet you all. Eyes that is Marcus Evans, Logo's top engineer and the other founder. Marcus meet the Occult Research Club. Marcus snapped his fingers in remembrance. That reminds me. Who of you has a sacred gear? Asia, Issei, and Kiba raised their hands. Do you mind if I borrow them for some tests, Victor? The engineer asked his colleague. No. Go ahead. I'll be busy for a while as well. Victor replied without looking up from his work. Marcus motioned to the three sacred gear wielders. Well then you three follow me. The three followed them down the hallway up to the end of it where they took another elevator one level further down. Kiba, Asia and Issei were looking at a large circular room. One part of it was filled with instruments they couldn't even name and the other part was mostly empty. Welcome to my humble workstation. Marcus said, flourishing a slight bow with his arms, gesturing to the room around them. Whoa. Issei said in amazement, but why is your workplace this whole room and Victor-san just had this small one? Mostly because Victor doesn't necessarily need that much space. The brown-haired scientist elaborated. I get to tinker around with a lot of stuff, some of which I tend to test myself down here before sending it upstairs to the other guys. Saves me a lot of time of getting stuff sent back relatively fast. The engineer clapped into his hands. Now what are your sacred gears and what can they do? He looked at Kiba. Let's start with you. The blonde devil formed the black-bladed holy eraser inside of his hands. My sacred gear sword birth allows me to create demonic swords with whatever attribute I desire. The engineer's eyes lit up. That is incredible. Sacred gears do indeed defy the laws of reality. He commented to create even something like a sword from basically nothing is phenomenal. I think I'll let Victor analyze the composition after I'm done here. He then gestured to Issei, who called up the red gauntlet. This is the boosted gear. Every 10 seconds it doubles my strength. Marcus rubbed his chin and thought, does it really just double your power without limit? Yeah, I think so. At least that's how Butchu explained it to me. Issei explained, although with a large amount of uncertainty. I don't believe that it simply keeps multiplying and multiplying your strength. Marcus went into his laboratory and retrieved a glass and a bottle of water. Sacred gears have the ability to defy reality, and your Longinus gear even more so, but your body is still bound to reality. I believe at some point boosting your power will become detrimental to you. What do you mean? The boosted gear wielder inquired, confused. Marcus screwed the cap of the bottle and filled the bottom of the glass with some water. Alright, imagine this glass is your body and the water inside of it is your power. Issei nodded as he looked at the glass and Marcus doubled the amount of water. This is after doubling once. He did so once more and the glass was filled to the brim, and after once more water was spilling from the glass on the ground. I theorized that at some point the power will simply spill uselessly from your body since you can't make any use of it. Marcus screwed the cap back on and placed both items away. That, however, is based on the assumption that your body is open-ended like the glass. The other theory is much more unpleasant. It would be if your body was akin to a closed glass container that was continuously filled. Eventually the container, in this case your body, will break because it can't handle all that power. Issei gulped as he imagined it. That wasn't a pleasant thought, and he looked at his sacred gear. It seems even a god killer has its limits. Now you. Marcus gestured to Asia. She pointed at the ring on each hand. This is my twilight healing. I can use it to heal any injury. That's more Victor's area of expertise than mine to examine, but I'll take a look at it anyway. Marcus replied and gestured for them to follow him deeper into his lab. Issei-san, have you ever tried to take that glove off? No, I haven't. The brown-haired boy stated. Would you mind trying? Issei pulled at the glove with his right hand and it stuck tightly to his hand, refusing to let go. Eventually the boy just gave up. Nope, I don't think it will come off. Are you able to take the rings off? He then asked Asia and she shook her head after some time of trying. Alright, then you two just get back to Victor. The first, don't think I could do any tests without harming you. I trust you'll find the way back. Asia and Issei nodded and went back to the elevator and left the laboratory behind. Marcus then led the swordsman to a large machine that looked like some kind of press. Could I have that sword of yours? Kiba handed the engineer the sword. This is an universal testing machine. Once the sword has been locked in place, the machine will test its compressive strength by steadily increasing the load on it. The engineer explained as he fastened the sword into the machine. Say, could you create another sword for reference? The blonde swordsman wordlessly created another demonic sword, forming a sword with a golden handle and an edge made completely from ice. Marcus started the machine and applied force, beginning with 1000 Newton of force and steadily rising. Soon it rose above the 10,000 and 100,000 Newton mark. After a while the amount of force applied was beyond 1 million Newton. At the 10 million Newton mark, cracks started forming on the blade, and once 10.5 million Newton had been reached, the blade broke in half. Impressive. Marcus noted, not that Kiba could understand why. He then took the next blade and bladed inside the machine after having removed the broken sword pieces. The blade of ice withstood the same amount of force, which didn't make sense to the engineer. Whatever metal the first sword was forged from should have had many times more compressive strength than ice had, and yet they both had the same amount. Which means the structure of the material isn't responsible for the strength of it. Marcus realized and went to pick up some other machine for further tests. Meanwhile, upstairs, after Victor had taken a sample of everyone's blood, he began a full checkup, beginning with Naruto. The blonde was done pretty quickly. Not much has changed since last time. Your body adapted perfectly to the changes it underwent, and there are no side effects whatsoever. Your body is an absolute paragon of health and fitness. He stated. The next person to be checked was Kaneko. Meanwhile, Asia and Issei had returned from downstairs, surprising Naruto, who was putting his shirt back on. Already back, you two? He asked a former sister and Longinus wielder. Yeah, we couldn't take our sacred gears off, and Marcus said he wouldn't be able to do any tests without harming us. The brown-haired boy explained, and he told Asia that Victor-san would be able to evaluate her sacred gear better than he would be able to. What's her sacred gear's power? The Russian scientist asked as he was checking Kaneko's reflexes, which worked better than expected. I can heal all wounds. Asia stated meekly, which got the founder of Logos to perk up without distracting him from his work. He began testing Kaneko's eyesight, which was superb, before checking her light sensitivity. He took a pen light and pointed it into her eyes, cat-like eyes. He noted and placed his left hand in such a way that it would have been in someone's peripheral view. Can you see my hand? Yes. The white-haired devil replied. Interesting, you have a peripheral vision, even though cats, like many other predators, sacrifice peripheral vision for a better depth perception. The biochemist stated and continued his checkup. Soon he was done with Kaneko. You are perfectly healthy as well. Your muscle and bone density off the charts, even better than Naruto's, and you exhibit traits usually found in cats, like your slitted eyes. One after another he examined the members of the occult research club. In between one examination, Kiba returned from Marcus' workplace, explaining that the man wanted to be left alone while evaluating the data he had gathered. In the end, everyone had been declared perfectly fine, above human standards, even as it was to be expected. Now then, I'll get to analyzing the blood samples. Victor stated, if you want to do some training, I suggest you take the 3rd underground level. Just take the elevator at the back of the hall. Naruto led them downstairs to the level Victor had mentioned. The room was similar to Marcus' workstation. It was a large circular room filled with punching bags, weights for lifting, and large empty area for sparring, and small one with benches and a table for breaks in between. You humans really know how to use the space you are given, Naruto-kun. Ria said, impressed. Is the underworld that much bigger? The blonde human asked. The underworld has the same amount of space the earth has, except there are no oceans. Akeno explained, not to mention most devils can simply use magic to enlarge the space they already have. That reminds me, Akeno. Can you give our 2 newcomers a lesson on using magic? She asked her queen. No problem at all, but you. She replied and called Asia and Issei to her. Do you mind if I watch? Naruto asked the black-haired woman. Not at all. She replied and turned to her 2 students. Close your eyes. Gather the magic that is in your body. Focus your concentration. Feel the wave of magic. She instructed the 2. Issei looked like he was constipated, trying to force the magic out of his body, when Asia said with her voice filled with happiness, I did it. A small green orb floated in her hands. Maybe you have a talent for magic. Akeno noted with a smile, happy that the blonde-haired girl had grasped it so quickly. Maybe this could help me with my powers as well. Naruto thought and closed his eyes. Previously he simply had called forth fire in this way, so this time he would try to call forth his power in its raw form. Concentrate and pull it from deep inside you. He reminded himself, and he felt a small tug at the back of his mind, and soon he could feel something floating above his palms. He opened his eyes and saw a small pink-colored ball between his hands. Naruto noted that it felt slightly cold, but there was an underlying spark of power to it. Ara. What do you have there, Naruto-kun? Akeno inquired with curiosity, and everyone took a look at the pink ball. I think this is my power in raw form. The blonde ventured a guess, since that was what he had tried to do. Pretty. Kaneko said, looking at the orb with fascination gleaming in her slitted eyes. What a strange power. Kiba commented. Kiba is right. I can barely even sense it. Rias told the superhuman, if I didn't know it wasn't there and I was looking straight at it, I would have missed it. It feels absolutely nothing like magic or holy power. The closest I could describe the feel I am getting would be if one were to mix ice magic with lightning magic. What is it, Naruto-kun? Well, Victor told me that my powers are psychic, which would mean that this is the raw power of my mind and will focused into a visible form. It's so unfair, everyone's getting a hang of things except me. Issei complained, completely devastated that even Naruto, as a normal human, had a better grasp of his powers than he had. "Don't worry, Issei. You'll get a hang of this soon." Kiba encouraged his fellow devil. "Thanks, Kiba." Issei flashed the boy a grateful smile. "I'm trying to get better at using my power though. Currently I get drained pretty fast if I use it." Naruto explained with a frown. "Why don't you and I have small spar, my magic against your mental powers, and you show me what you can do?" Akeno suggested. "Sure, that should be no problem." Naruto responded, and the two went to the empty area designed for spars. "Ready, Naruto-kun?" Akeno asked. The blonde and the other devils were observing them from their previous place. "Ready, Akeno-chan?" he said, and without warning a bolt of lightning shot towards him. Naruto's first tried to manipulate the lightning bolt and redirect it towards Akeno, but the electric energy of the lightning was a coat of something oily and slippery. He somehow couldn't get a grip on it and settled for dodging, instead throwing a fireball, the size of a small car, at her at the same time. The queen conjured a ball of water to counter the fireball, leaving a small cloud of steam hanging in the air. The black-haired sadist sent two more bolts towards the blonde, who once more jumped out of the way and tried to attack her with a blast of wind, which she countered with her own. Akeno had yet to move from her spot at all. All his attacks had been effectively countered, while he had to dodge out of the way to avoid being fried by the lightning. Naruto then manipulated some of the nearby weights and hurled them at the Akeno, who stopped them by creating earth walls in their flight path. The blonde already felt tired, and perhaps he would just be able to do one last thing before he would be overexerting himself. Although he noted, "I can already use a lot more than previously." He sent a burst of force at Akeno and heard the ripping of fabric before he was struck by a bolt of lightning, unable to dodge. Asia gasped in shock as he was hit, and Issei seemed a little shocked as well, but everyone else kept completely calm. "Being hit by a bolt of lightning didn't hurt as much as I expected, but it still fucking hurt." Naruto cursed inwardly at the slight pain he was feeling. "I think that is enough, Naruto-kun," Akeno stated, and gave Naruto her hand, helping the blonde up. He had ripped the fabric of her uniform, revealing that she was wearing a blue bra. Meanwhile, Issei had a lecherous look on his face at being, almost, able to see a pair of dot. "You did well for someone that has little experience in fighting a magic user." She complimented him, "but using those powers seemed to take a real toll on you. I noticed how your attacks kept losing power." "Yeah, but I think if I keep using it more and more, I think I will be able to increase my reserves," Naruto stated, and bowed slightly to the black-haired devil. "Thank you for helping me, Akeno-chan." "Think nothing of it, Naruto-kun," she replied, hugging him from behind, pressing her ample bosom into his back, much to the chagrin of Ria's. "Soft," the blonde noted with a blush, while Issei cursed him for his luck, and Kiba seemed quite amused by the scene. Later this day, it was already close to late night. They decided to go home. Victor and Marcus saw them off. "Thanks for helping us with our research," they both said, bowing in gratitude. "It helped us immensely." Marcus, for example, had found out that the sword Kiba's sacred gear created were so robust, despite being mostly made from steel or even less sturdy material, because magic kept flowing through the weapons and held it together at a molecular level, far beyond what the material should be capable of. He still hadn't determined how the sword's special abilities worked, but with time even that would no longer remain a mystery. The brown-haired engineer pulled forth a small box. "Here, I wanted to give you this, Naruto." He handed the blonde the box, who opened it, pulling out a pair of two guns along with some magazines. "I finally worked out why the guns broke after the battery powering it was empty." Naruto holstered the weapon pair and looked up at Marcus. "Why did that happen?" Marcus blushed lightly in embarrassment. "Apparently I made a mistake when writing the changed array. The weapon simply kept trying to keep taking more energy to keep it powered, but once it could find no more, the array broke itself down to keep the weapon powered, thereby failing." After that, the group went home, arranging to meet up again tomorrow for more training. Undisclosed location, local time. 12:05 a.m. "And you are really sure that these humans are working together with the devils?" an older, slightly croaking voice asked. "Yes, I'm very sure of that," the black-haired George responded, and felt like rolling his eyes in annoyance. "This has been the 10th time he has asked me that. The heavens shall smite the heathens that dare to desecrate our holy earth by forging pacts with the devils," a female stated, her voice filled with anger. She was a young, busty woman, perhaps in her early 20s, with short blonde hair. She had a lithe and well-trained body. She wore red pants, shoes and fingerless gloves that protected her lower arms as well. Her shirt was red rimmed, with the rest being white, except for a red flame insignia in the center of it. At her side was the handle of a light sword, and on her back was a shield with the exact color scheme as her shirt. Red rims, center white, and a red flame insignia in the middle. "All in due time, Sally," the old man reminded her, and she bowed in apology. "Yes, I'm sorry, my Lunarch." The Lunarch was an almost decrepit old man with a flowing white robe, the red insignia embedded on it. All over his wrists and around his neck were prayer beads. "So where can we find the sinners that have to be punished?" a young male in his mid-20s with long blonde hair asked. He wore a full-plate mail armor with a red flame insignia on it. He leaned on a large warhammer, the head etched with runes and the shaft wrapped in blue leather. But I couldn't find out. Georg admitted and pushed his glasses up, but I'm sure capable warriors such as you should be able to find them without problem. The light shall guide our way. The fourth member of the group stated, kneeling in front of his halberd which he stuck in the ground. The shaft was polished ebony white and the tip looked as if it emitted light. The hook on the weapon's spiked top resembled an angel wing. He was a male with brown hair not older than the blonde-haired one of the group. He wore a similar attire to that of Sally, except that his was all white except for the red insignia. God shall light the way for his followers. A fifth voice agreed. The voice belonged to a large hulking tower of a man that was at least 2 meters tall. He wore a pair of sandals, a short white pants and no shirt, showing his muscle-packed torso. His head was bald except for a small black ponytail. I will be leaving you to your task then. Georg stated and disappeared from the scene. Filthy heretic. The brown-haired one snarled when Georg was gone. We should have killed him and removed one more filthy devil worker from this world. Now, Roderick. The old man scolded. God's punishment will come and he shall receive it, as will every sinner eventually. However, first we shall deal with all these devils infesting and corrupting our precious, God-given world. Then we can turn to all the practitioners of witchcraft. Your words are filled with wisdom, Master Mikius. The blond man praised the older man. How shall we find the devil-loving heathens? The heretic didn't tell us anything after all. Eventually God shall grant me a glimpse of his unending knowledge, Arthas. Then we know where to go. Mikius responded calmly and fingered his prayer beads. Until then we bide our time.